Are you sure you want to move schools? Hisashi Midoriya asked the son through the screen of a computer. The father loved his son very much, even if he was forced to live like a quirkless person. Yeah, I can't take it anymore, Izuku replied, clenching his hand into a fist under the table. Then I'll find you a place for you to stay, Hisashi stated. Thanks, Dad, but I want to use it. Izuku glanced at the picture of him and his mother on the wall. Are you sure, son? I know you're 16 already, but are you sure you want to use it? Hisashi asked. Mom left it for me before she died. She told me to use it when I decided to finally change my life. I've decided, Izuku declared. Then tell me if you need help, and don't get scammed, Hisashi said flatly. We both know you're too nice to say no, Hisashi deadpanned at Izuku. I'll make sure, Izuku the back of his head. Good luck, son, Hisashi smiled warmly at Izuku. Thanks, Dad. Izuku returned the smile. They bid their farewell, and Izuku prepared to finally change his life. The day had been a roller coaster for Izuku, but Kugu had told him to jump a roof. A slime-like villain tried to take over his body. All Might saved him, then proceeded to break his dream. He didn't even have the energy to go to the villain fight. After All Might left him on that roof. Can I be a hero even if my quirk is still dormant? Izuku asked hopefully. No. Izuku didn't need to hear anything more after that. Words to try to sugarcoat what the man said to him, because at the end of the day, a no is a no. Izuku opened a drawer and pulled out a bank book. His mother had left one last gift before dying, and it was a terrifying amount of money. I should go check for a decent place, Izuku muttered as he went back to his computer. As he was looking up some places for sale, Izuku began to realize that he did not know what he was doing. He also needed to find a new school. Shit, I need help. Good morning, Mr. Midoriya. A woman wearing a business suit greeted Izuku. Good morning as well. Izuku bowed to the woman. I'm Mrs. Yoryu, and I'll be the one showing you the properties that fit your requests, the woman said. Thank you. Izuku bowed again. Izuku was led to a black sedan. Once they got inside, the driver began to take them to the first property as Mrs. Yoryu began to show him pictures and explain about the properties. Izuku requested property that was far away from other residential areas, basically isolated. Izuku also requested that the property was far from any busy areas, like markets. Izuku also wanted it to be fairly large, but was still within his price range. Only 2 properties came up. They were next to each other. Figures. This is the first property, Mr. Midoriya. Mrs. Yoryu led him to a rather old-looking house that had a fence surrounding the whole land that came with it. It's bigger than I thought, Izuku admitted. It used to be stable. A lot of people used to come here to experience riding a horse. But all the horses died, which forced the owner to sell the property. Mrs. Yoryu explained. You told me earlier that it wasn't sold for 2 years. Why? It seems to be a good place to build a hero agency. Izuku asked. It would be because of the area. It would be bothersome to go here and go back to patrol in the city, the estate agent answered. I guess it'll be harder to go here if you don't have your own vehicle, Izuku realized. Correct. Would like to see the house? Mrs. Yoryu asked. Sure, Izuku replied as he followed the estate agent inside. The house had obviously seen better days. The floorboards were falling apart. The paint was already peeling off, and other problems regarding the state of the house. It was a good thing Izuku set aside money for reservations. My apologies, off house isn't in a better state, Mrs. Yoryu spoke. It's all right. I plan on renovating anyways. You said that this place used to be a stable. Can I see the actual stable? Izuku asked. Of course, Mrs. Yoryu cheerfully answered. Izuku saw that the stable for the horses also needed renovations if he planned on having a horse, which was very tempting. Would you like to see the next property? Mrs. Yoryu asked as Izuku was debating on buying a horse. All right, Izuku replied. They didn't walk very far to see the end of the fence dividing the 2 properties. This property was used as a fish pond until the previous owner moved overseas, Mrs. Yoryu explained. Izuku saw the fish pond which lacked the fish and was covered in moss. The house and the property was also in the same state as the previous property, but was actually larger. Have you decided on which one to buy, Mr. Midoriya? The estate agent asked. I'd like to buy the first, Izuku decided. Then shall we head to the office to finalize the purchase? Mrs. URU asked. Izuku nodded. Here you are, Mr. Midoriya. Thank you for doing business with us. Mrs. URU gave Izuku a brown envelope. Thank you as well. Izuku bowed. Once Izuku got home to his apartment, he took a picture of the files and sent it to his father. There were more than he thought. He expected to only receive a title to the land, but he was also given a certificate that was proof that the land was allowed to house large animals. Neat. He still needed to get approved if he actually plans on having a horse, though. The moment Izuku touched the title to the land, a panel appeared in front of him. Territory established. Unlocking functions. Izuku was teleported to an all-too-familiar land. The property he just bought. Welcome to your territory. Izuku stared at the panel in front of him, swiping his hands through it a few times. Is this my quirk? Izuku's voice trembled. His body began shaking. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Izuku cried in outrage. I waited 12 years and now you show up. If Izuku had anything he could lift around him, he would have threw it by now. But unfortunately, he was a small boy. After a few minutes of angrily stomping on the grass, Izuku sat on the ground panting. Please tell me you're at least useful after taking me all the way here. Izuku glared at the floating panel. I don't even have my phone with me. Izuku grumbled. Choose a task. Build. Shop. Beacon. Other options locked. Build. Izuku raised an eyebrow. Build. House. Other options locked. Screw it, house. Izuku spoke. Please identify house design. Izuku yelped as a green hologram of a box appeared in front of him. Cool. Izuku muttered as the box changed its shape as Izuku pictured a house. He didn't know how, but knowledge about construction and engineering was in his head, like it had always been there since the beginning. Everything he needed to know about making his house was inside his head, and Izuku was putting it to good use. The simple box became a simple 2-story house. Both of the floors were 3 meters high and 2,000 square foot wide. It was still a glowing green hologram, but Izuku looked satisfied with his work. It was probably going to be completely devoid of furniture, though. How do I place it? Izuku wondered. Then the hologram glowed, and he watched in amazement as the house was being brought to reality. A Matzi dash. Izuku fell to the ground as his knees gave out. He could feel all his energy being drained from his body. As the house was being created, Izuku was slowly losing consciousness, until he completely blacked out. First house created. Other functions being unlocked. Inventory unlocked. All possessions have been transferred to the inventory. Izuku stared at the panels floating over him as he lay on the grassy ground, looking up to the starry night. What happened? Izuku groaned as he got up. He looked behind him to see his newly built house. His eyes widened as he remembered what happened to him. My quirk must have used my energy to make the house, Izuku figured out. I'll check the inventory, Izuku muttered. A panel appeared in front of him and showed pretty much everything he owned, even his hero merchandise. At least I don't need to go get my stuff anymore. Izuku looked on the bright side of the situation. He looked at the hero merchandise in his inventory with disgust. Every time he looks at it, he remembers All Might's words. If only I could sell it, Izuku grumbled. Would like to sell this item? Izuku's eyes widened. Yes. Item confirmed. Searching for buyer. Izuku stared at the panel of his quirk. Naitai was in his office, looking over files for his new case. The Shia Saikai had recently been suspected of producing a drug called Trigger, so they needed to be stopped after enough evidence has been acquired. It had been a busy week for the man, and it will probably get even busier. Would like to purchase this item? Naitai immediately got into a combat stance as a floating projection appeared ahead of him, asking him if he wanted to buy a limited edition Silver Age All Might figurine. What in the world? Buyer has been found. Establishing connection. Connection established. Izuku was not expecting a screen to pop out of nowhere to show Sir Naitai of all people. He was most definitely not expecting to sell all his almighty merch to the man at that moment, but he did, so now he had 5 million yen. Pleasure doing business with the young man, Naitai spoke. To thank you, too. Izuku bowed as the screen vanished. What the fuck? Izuku opened his eyes to see the white ceiling of his new house. Looking around the room, he saw that it was completely empty aside from his bed. Now that I'm rested, what surprises do you have for me? Izuku asked his quirk. Build. Shop. Beacon. Inventory. Beacon. Izuku spoke. Beacon set. None. Set beacon yes/no. What even is a beacon? Izuku looked at the panel in confusion. Beacon. Marked areas where the user may teleport to. Available beacons, too. That's convenient. Setting beacon. Beacon name. Home. Izuku waited if his quirk was going to drain his energy. Thankfully, it didn't this time. First beacon established. Quests unlocked. Quest. Start building. Build a fence. Reward. Failure to complete the quest in 2 o'clock will result in a penalty. Ah shit. Izuku thought that when his quirk told him to build a fence, he could use his quirk. He did not. Izuku was doing everything manually and without any proper tools. Screw this. Izuku threw the wood plank on the ground. Screw the penalty. Give me your best shot. Izuku shouted at the sky. Quest failed. The player has surrendered. Penalty starting. Penalty quest. Survive for 2 o'clock. Huh. Izuku became confused as the sound of something materializing made him look back. An ankylosaurus was behind Izuku. Its fierce eyes locked onto him. He ran. Yu Yaoyorozu may not be as successful as her older brother, but she was proud of her job, especially when she manages to land a big deal like today. One of the properties that were deemed unsellable was just sold by her, and that made her beam with pride. You seem to be in a good mood, her brother said as he walked into her office. Well, I just got a 1-month vacation for making an impossible sale. Yu said proudly. Sure. Her brother didn't seem that impressed. I wanted to inform you that we'll be going to Hawaii for Momo's birthday, and wanted you and your husband to come with us, her brother informed. Looks like I'll be using that vacation early, Yu replied. Aren't ankylosauruses supposed to be vegetarians? Last I remember I made 'em meat. Izuku shouted as he ran for his life. Izuku tried hiding in the stable, but with a swing of its mighty hammer-like tail, the whole stable was destroyed, sending Izuku flying. Help! Izuku cried out as he resumed his run. He thankful that the dinosaur wasn't fast, but he would be more thankful if it wasn't trying to kill him. Huh? Izuku stopped in confusion when he was no longer hearing the heavy stomps of the dinosaur. He turned to look and saw that the ankylosaurus stopped and simply glared at him. Izuku looked at the timer and saw that there was still 1 hour left on the penalty. As he was no longer running for his life, Izuku finally got a good look at the dinosaur. It had a large, spiky shell and definitely looked armored everywhere else, too. The tail looked more like a sledge than what it's supposed to really look like, and Izuku could swear the tail looked it was made of black metal. Then the tail glowed. Ah shit! Izuku immediately began running again. The ankylosaurus took a mighty step and twisted its body to swing its tail down on the ground. Then a shockwave of green energy exploded from the impact. Izuku was caught in the shockwave and was thrown over the wooden fence. What the hell? Izuku exclaimed. The dinosaur ran after him again. Izuku clutched his chest as he collapsed on the ground, hyperventilating after being chased by a quirked dinosaur. He was lucky the dinosaur only used its ability once the whole time. Penalty quest completed. Reward. Lord's crowbar. Lord's hammer. Izuku stared at the panel and opened his inventory. He took out the Lord's hammer to inspect it. It looked like a normal hammer, except that it had green lines all over it. The Lord's crowbar was the same. At least I have tools now, Izuku muttered. Then Izuku wondered if he had status screen like in games. Status. Izuku Midoriya. Property owned. 1. Beacons. 1. Home. Equipment. Lord's hammer. Lord's crowbar. Skills. Lord's body. Passive. The player's growth is greatly enhanced inside their territory. Lord's domain active. All allies within the Lord's territory will be greatly boosted. Dash active. Boost the player's speed. Huh. It really is like a game, but it doesn't show my actual stats. Izuku rubbed his chin in thought. I'm guessing it uses my energy instead of mana like in games, Izuku figured. Quest. Build a wall. Build a wall within 2,400 hours. Reward, tremor ankylosing. Failure will result in a penalty. You've got to be kidding me. Izuku exclaimed. Katsuki Bakugo entered the classroom and saw that Deku's chair was empty. At first he thought that he was just in the school clinic, but Deku didn't show himself the entire day. The next day, same thing, no Deku in sight. The extras started putting spider lilies on Deku's desk as a joke. The next day, cops arrived, arresting teachers and the principal, questioning the students, even taking some of them to the police station, himself included. Katsuki sat in an interrogation room with a man wearing a trench coat in front of him. I'm Detective Tsukachi. Your parents have already arrived, so we will be starting the interrogation now, the detective said. Whatever, Katsuki grumbled. Do you know someone named Izuku Midoriya? The detective asked. Fucking Deku, Katsuki said in annoyance. Please answer my question. Yeah, Katsuki replied. True. Did you know what happened to him? No, what the fuck happened to Deku? Katsuki asked in annoyance. True. I can't answer that, the detective replied. Did you know that he was suffering from serious abuse within the school? The detective continued with the questions. Why the fuck should I care about that useless Deku? Katsuki shouted. Answer the question, the detective demanded with a serious tone. No. False. Did any of the teachers try to help Midoriya in any way? No, those useless fucks, Katsuki answered. True. Did you use your quirk to torment Midoriya in any way? The detective narrowed his eyes, his gaze saying that he already knew the answer. No. False. The detective's hand clenched, crumpling the files in his hand. My last question. Why did you torment Izuku Midoriya? What the fuck are you talking about? Katsuki snarled. My quirk is called lie detector. I can tell if a person is lying. You lied when I asked you if you knew the abuse and if you used your quirk on Midoriya. The detective revealed. That's bullshit. Katsuki shouted. Answer me, Katsuki Bakugo. Why did you torment Izuku Midoriya? The detective demanded. Because he fucking deserves it. Thinking he could be a hero without a fucking quirk. Looking down on me for even trying. Katsuki yelled out. I've heard everything I needed to know. The detective stood up and opened the door to see the saddened face of his mother and the disappointed face of his father. Izuku could barely held himself to the ground. The quirk had allowed him to build the wall with his quirk, but the problem was if he had any energy, using the build function. He designed a 4-meter tall wall and laid it out to cover the whole property. Instead of fainting from exhaustion, the building would pause, leaving the green hologram in its place. I need help, Izuku muttered. Maybe I should try that shop. A panel appeared in front of Izuku. He could see different items, all of which sounded weird to him. Thankfully, it had a filter. Izuku searched for anything to help with energy recovery. He found 2 things that could help. Energy Recovery Potion, 3x 500,000 yen. Energy Recovery Elixir, 2 million. Izuku currently had around 8 million yen from what his mother left him and from selling his All Might merchandise. Buy it! Izuku did not hesitate. He was already planning on using the money for renovations anyway. 4 potions appeared on the ground. 3 of them were in a circular glass bottle, while the other looked more expensive. Must be the elixir. He drank one of the potions and felt his energy starting to come back, but was being drained again as the wall continued to build itself again. Manual building unlocked. Izuku raised an eyebrow. Manual building. The user can make the process faster by manually helping in building. Is that it? That's pretty obvious, you know. Izuku sassed his quirk. Izuku did it anyway. Adding the manual labor and consuming 3 potions, Izuku finished a little over half of the wall. Time to test this one out. Izuku held the elixir in his hands. He still had 8 hours left to finish the wall. Pretty good considering he added the time it took for him to rest. Hammer Mastery, level 1 unlocked. Hammer Mastery. When wielding a hammer, strength increases by 10%. Nice of you to help. Izuku mumbled before drinking the whole elixir bottle. Tastes like grape, Izuku said before he felt his energy recovering at an amazing speed. He could see the wall immediately construct itself as his energy replenished. Izuku wasted no time, immediately joining on constructing the wall. no matter how little his help actually did. Unknown to him, the maximum amount of energy he had greatly increased because of the numerous times he had ran out and replenished himself. Yo, Ryuko, where you? Mirko, the rabbit heroine, jumped onto the balcony of her friend. What are you doing here, Rumi? Ryukyu, the dragon heroine, asked as she sat on her office chair, watching the UA Sports Festival. Got bored. Are you watching the sports festival? Mirko asked. Yes, you know I always do this to scout some potential sidekicks, Ryukyu replied. Female sidekicks, you never taken guys. Always saying that the world needed more female heroes. Mirko said. Whatever. Did you really just come here cause you're bored? Ryukyu asked. Pretty much. Mirko sat on the couch. Suit yourself. Ryukyu turned back to watching the sports festival. Anybody caught your interest? The rabbit heroine asked. Yes. There's a girl that has an energy-based quirk, but can't use it properly, Ryuko replied. Weak. Mirko commented as she began snacking on some peanuts on Ryukyu's desk. She just needs some proper guidance, Ryukyu defended. Whatever you say. Mirko rolled her eyes. Ryukyu sighed. Quest completed. Summon function unlocked. Hammer mastery level up to 2. Finally done. Izuku dropped onto his bed in exhaustion. I never want to do that again, Izuku mumbled. I probably never would have made it. My quirk didn't provide the wood for the wall. He pulled out the television from his inventory and remembered that he forgot that he did not have any electricity. He would have probably froze to death if it was in the colder times of the year. I'll just scroll through the shop for entertainment, Izuku said half-heartedly. A few seconds later. Holy shit. Izuku jumped out of bed as he found something amazing. Evergrow Tree Seed 10000000. Evergrow Tree, a tree capable of regrowing within minutes whenever it is cut down. Maximum growth height is 4 meters. Golden Carrot Seeds 50000000. Golden Carrot, a vegetable capable of healing injuries and replenishing energy. Izuku immediately bought them. Quest, farming. Plant Evergrow Tree Seed. Plant 20 Golden Carrot Seeds. Reward? Failure. Izuku did not want to risk failure. Even if it didn't say penalty, Izuku knew his quirk was a sadistic prick that gave out ridiculous punishments. He immediately ran out of his house to plant the seeds. Izuku went to an open area, quite a far distance from his house. He took out the Lord's crowbar and began digging with it, making it into a makeshift shovel. Lord's green thumb has been acquired. Any plant the Lord plants himself will grow 100% of the time. That's what I'm talking about. Izuku cheered as he placed the Evergrow Tree Seed into the small 15-inch deep hole he dug. Once he covered it up with dirt, he took out a weigher bottle from his inventory and poured into the ground. But before Izuku could leave, the ground began to shake and a tree popped out from under him. Holy shit. Everything all right, son? Hisashi asked Izuku hasn't contacted him in a week. I was setting up in my new home, and I didn't have any electricity yet. Izuku scratched the back of his head. He was currently in an internet cafe back in the city. I've already informed the landlord from your previous apartment that you moved out by the way, Hisashi informed. Thanks, I forgot about that, Izuku replied. Have you decided on what school to transfer to? Hisashi asked his son. Rakuzan High School is the closest here in Terisu City, Izuku answered. Aren't they that very competitive school? Hisashi raised an eyebrow. Yeah, even though they aren't a hero university and still a high school, they already train their students. Martial arts, medical knowledge, and many more that helps in being a hero, Izuku explained. You really thought this through, haven't you? Hisashi smiled at his son. Yeah, and Dad, I need to tell you something. I have a quirk, no. Mirko was using Ryukyu's computer to search some stuff at the hero market, which was basically the present-day Amazon. Rumi wasn't really much a spender or interested in shopping at all. She was just bored. How low have the mighty have fallen? Ryukyu muttered as she watched the rabbit heroine. Suddenly, Mirko burst out laughing. Hey, Ryuko, take a look at this. Mirko shouted. Ryukyu looked at the screen. Golden carrots? Seriously. Ryuko stared at her friend. Some nut job is trying to sell a carrot that can heal injuries and recover energy. Rumi continued to laugh. Maybe as a farming quirk. Nothing's impossible nowadays, you know, Ryukyu stated. Mirko stopped laughing, then stared at Ryukyu. The dragon heroine could see the gears turning in her friend's head. Mirko immediately pressed by with express delivery. That's my account. Ryukyu shouted. Yesterday, after talking to his father, Izuku had teleported home. He started strolling through the shop again, and he quickly realized that he was running out of money. So he decided to sell some of the golden carrots that he had planted. People will probably think I'm some crazy idiot for selling these, Izuku said as he placed a seed in hole. He had spent hours making a proper farming area for his carrots. He was planning on mass producing them if possible after all. Quest completed. Establishing rewards. Summon. Earth Fairy acquired. You have made an effort for the future. Establishing bonus rewards. Summon. Nature Fairy acquired. Wow! Izuku immediately went to the summon function. Summons. Tremor Ankelo. Earth Fairy. Nature Fairy. Summon both fairies. Izuku spoke. In a dazzling light show, two small little figures appeared. One of them is a floating rock with small pebbles connected to be fingerless hands. It had no legs or feet and was just floating. The other one looked like a green coconut that had a small plant growing on top of it. It had vines for hands and also lacked legs or feet. They were both definitely cute. Wow, what can you guys do? Izuku asked in excitement. Izuku was never the type to underestimate or look down anyone, always looking at the positive. These may not look threatening as a dinosaur that tried to kill him, but he knew they would be amazing. The Nature Fairy began glowing, and all the leftover golden carrot seeds left in the seed bag floated out and planted themselves. Then Earth Fairy started to drop glowing dust on the soil and immediately made the carrots grow. Izuku squealed. Present. Buyer has been found. Huh. Izuku looked at the notification, clicking the panel. It began to show Izuku's hero market account. He saw that someone actually wanted to buy one of his golden carrots. Baby Dragon? That's an odd username. Izuku mumbled. With the help of his quirk, he sent one golden carrot. It was priced at 10,000 yen since Izuku didn't know how much they were worth yet. He only placed one in stock too, just to test it. Are you trying to make me a businessman? Izuku asked the quirk. He hasn't received the payment yet, but the package was already delivered and his quirk will receive the money. Convenient. Time to train, Izuku stated as he stood in front of the evergrow tree. I still don't have any electricity, so I'm going to need some firewood, Izuku mumbled, with the Lord's hammer in his right hand and the Lord's crowbar in the left. Izuku began attacking the tree. He only had one goal for this type of training for now. Crowbar mastery has been learned to level up. A few days passed by, and Izuku grew a lot with his training. Using the build function, Izuku had built an electrical system for his home using solar panels. He had ate nothing but golden carrots nonstop to recover his energy and heal himself. At this point, he was sick of them, but it all paid out. Hammer mastery has leveled up to 8. Crowbar mastery has leveled up to 6. The boost was a great help, but it wasn't much since it only amplified what strength and speed Izuku had. So if he wanted to actually get stronger, he needed to train his body. Quest, become stronger. Main quest, physical strength. Carry a small rock for 10 kilometers. Carry 10 branches for 10 kilometers. Carry a medium-sized rock for 10 kilometers. Carry a tree trunk for 10 kilometers. Carry a boulder for 10 kilometers. Carry a log for 10 kilometers. Reward, Lord's Fortress. Sub-quest, combat. Swing a hammer 10,000 times. Swing a crowbar 10,000 times. Reward, Lord Sword. Sub-quest, control. Catch 10 falling leaves 10,000 times. Catch a bird without harming it 10,000 times. Catch a fist with your hands 10,000 times. Reward, Lord's Heart. You got to be kidding me. Izuku fell to his knees. Bonus quest, Hunter. Hunt 100 wild beasts in the forest. You're telling me there are beasts in that forest? Izuku pointed to the forest in the distance. Reward? Mother Dash. Izuku stood in front of a mirror, wearing dark blue dress shirt with black slacks. He's currently struggling to do his tie. Someday I'll find a way to erase your existence on this world. Izuku said to his messy tie, putting on a gray coat. Izuku stepped out of his home. A taxi arrived soon after. Izuku needed a better way to transport soon. Getting a taxi every day wouldn't be productive. The taxi stopped in front of the school's gate. Izuku could see 3 buildings connected by multiple bridges like a messy spider web. That must have been exhausting to build, Izuku commented. You would be correct. Izuku turned around to see a man with red hair and red eyes. He was taller than Izuku by at least half a foot. You must be the transfer student, Izuku Midoriya. Why, yes. Izuku bowed. Stand tall. You're a proud student of the school now, the man said. Izuku felt the urge to obey. Like the man's voice held so much power over him. My name is Sidro Akashi, a fellow second year. Akashi introduced himself. Nice to meet you. Izuku bowed once more. The lack of stuttering made Akashi smile. Follow me. I need more. Mirko shaked Ryukyu violently. He only had one in stock. Ryukyu shouted. Upon purchase, the golden carrot disappeared from the shop, meaning it was sold out. At first, that made the 2 heroines sure that was a waste of Ryukyu's money, until an actual golden carrot popped into existence inside a floating semi-transparent green box that had QR code for payment. Once they made sure that it wasn't just a carrot that was painted gold, and an actual carrot with golden skin, and apparently golden inside too. Risking it all, Mirko took a bite and immediately squealed. I'll fucking find him and make him hand it all over. Mirko ran to the office's balcony, then jumped away. The hell was in that carrot? Ryukyu said after she managed to compose herself. Izuku and Akashi arrived at the 6th floor. The whole intersection of the 3 buildings were turned into a whole arena with several stages around a larger stage. That will be your class, Akashi informed, pointing at a group of students sitting in the benches of the arena. Class hasn't begun yet, so get to know the other students, Akashi added. I'll do that, Izuku replied. The cafeteria is in the ground floor. You can't miss it. If you get lost, there's a help desk in every floor, Akashi said before beginning to leave. I have high expectations for you, Midoriya. Thank you. Izuku bowed, still feeling odd sensations in his chest, like he was being controlled. Izuku approached the class, and his anxiety came back and hit him like a truck. The students turned to him, then immediately turned away after a few seconds. Are you lost? An orange-haired girl inside ponytail approached him. Oh, I am a transfer student, Izuku replied. Oh, then I'm at Tsukakendo. The girl held out his hand for a handshake. The teacher actually told us there was going to be a transfer student. I just didn't expect it to be in our class. The teacher wouldn't have told us if it wasn't in our class, Kendo. What did you expect? The one next door? A girl with white hair spoke. Don't test me, Kashiko. Kendo glared at the girl. I'm Kashiko Sekigai, the class rep. You're Izuku Midoriya, right? Sekigai asked. Why, yes, Izuku answered, since you're registered to have a dormant quirk. I don't know which clubs to recommend. If you want, you can go check the recruitment board. Sekigai spoke. Dormant. Kendo asked. Well, yeah, and my quirk didn't manifest, but the test showed that I have one. Izuku explained, waiting for the insults to come his way. That's rough, buddy, but nothing some good training can fix. Kendo said with a smile and a thumbs up. Quest, hand in marriage. Ask Atsuka Kendo to marry you. Reward, wife. Penalty. I ain't doing that. Izuku mentally screamed. Quest failed. Beginning penalty. Shit. Everything okay? Kendo asked. Penalty quest. Challenge. Defeat 5 opponents. Look what we have here. A large boy with red skin walked up to them. Behind him were 5 other boys. What are you doing here, Ryusaki? Kendo glared at the guy. I heard Akashi took interest in someone new, and everyone knows what that means. Ryusaki spoke. An uncrowned king, Kendo and Sekigai muttered. Izuku raised an eyebrow, trying to not stand out. And I want to test him. Ryusaki's eyes narrowed at Midoriya. In a blink of an eye, Ryusaki was in front of Midoriya and grabbed him by the shirt, then threw him onto the arena. Ryusaki, violence won't be tolerated. Sekigai shouted. I came prepared, nerd. Ryusaki smirked as he showed a permission slip to use the arena. You have to be kidding me. Kendo rushed onto the arena to grab Izuku, but the other 4 guys with Ryusaki grabbed her. Ah, let me go. Don't let her in, turf dash. Ryusaki was cut off by a massive shockwave that sent him flying out of the arena. Standing in the middle of the arena was Izuku on top of an ankylosaurus. Let her go. Izuku ordered, eyes glowing with power. An uncrowned king indeed. Get him. Ryusaki ordered his 4 followers. Izuku prepared to defend, taking out the Lord's hammer from his inventory. As the attackers got closer, Izuku got ready to block. Kneel. Izuku felt his body freeze before falling to his knees. The same thing happened to everybody else nearby. Got into the trouble an hour after arriving here. That has to be a new record. A tall guy with black long enough to cover one of his eyes walked up next to Akashi. It would seem so, Akashi said. What are you doing here, Akashi? Ryusaki shouted as he got up. You asked permission to use the gym for training. That did not involve Midoriya-sen. Akashi simply stated. Because he hasn't taken the test to have access to the arenas yet. Akashi explained. Ryusaki kept his mouth shut. When will he take the test? Sekigai asked as Kendo just stared with wide eyes at the dinosaur. Now, actually, Himuro, Akshi turned to the black-haired guy. Well then, let's move to main arena, Midoriya-sen. Himuro spoke up before walking toward the center arena. Akashi, why is Midoriya-sen going to fight an uncrowned king as a test? Sekigai asked. I believe you already know the answer to that. Akashi replied with a smile. Sekigai glared at Akashi before she began searching for the person that could actually answer. Looking around, Sekigai found who she was looking for near the center arena. Satsuki! Kashiko, what is it? A very gifted pink-haired girl turned to Sekigai, who had a still shocked Kendo following behind her. Explain that? Sekigai pointed at the arena, where Himuro stood in front of a very nervous Midoriya. A match. Satsuki asked, confused. Why is a transfer student having a test against an uncrowned king? Sekigai yelled. Oh! That's because Izuku Midoriya will become an uncrowned king after this test, win or lose. Satsuki explained like it was a normal thing. What? Everyone around them yelled. Using my quirk, I gained information about his stats, and I have to say, they're impressive considering he has a disadvantage. Satsuki explained. What's his ability anyway? Sekigai asked. Something about territory and being a landlord. Satsuki answered. Sekigai looked confused. Kendo was still staring at the dinosaur. And nice to meet you. Izuku bowed. Akashi rolled his eyes. Give it your all, Midoriya-san. Izuku felt the sensation of his nervousness disappearing again. Hearing Akashi's voice had that strange ability. Like a quirk? Shall we begin? Himuro asked. In response, Izuku called out the Lord's hammer and crowbar. Yes. Begin. Dash. In the blink of an eye, Izuku was already in front of Himuro. Swinging his hammer down, he hit nothing but air. Himuro disappeared, making Izuku's attack to hit the ground, creating a small crater from the impact. The hell? That arena is made of reinforced tungsten and iron. A student yelled. Impressive power, Midoriya-san. Himuro landed a kick to Izuku's back, then disappeared again as the ankylosaurus swung its tail at him. He keeps disappearing to dodge attacks, but he should still be in the arena. Izuku thought as he put the crowbar in his mouth to hold it, then took out another hammer from his inventory. Hammer Mastery, passive. Level 8. When wielding a hammer, strength increases by 80%. Strength increased by 160%. Himuro looked confused at the situation until Izuku slammed both hammers on the arena, creating a powerful shockwave. Lord's Impact has been learned. Lord's Impact, a powerful blunt attack. The Lord's power is increased by 200% when used. Himuro had to jump upward with all his strength just to avoid enough not get blown out of the arena. That was strong, a student commented. I doubt he can do it again, another student spoke. Izuku did it again. And again. And again. Stop. Izuku froze mid-swing from hearing Akashi's voice. Himuro was seen laying outside the arena. You sure that kid's not All Might's secret love child? Himuro asked before fainting. Dude. Kendo ran up the arena and began shaking Izuku. You said your quirk was dormant. I unlocked it last month. Izuku replied. That's so cool. Kendo exclaimed, giving him a wide smile. Izuku blushed. Quest, hand in marriage? No. Quest failed. Penalty is being established. Fuck me, Izuku muttered. Whoa! Take it easy there, Tiger. We just met. Maybe go on a date first. Kendo said. Quest completed. Reward and penalty is being established. Reward and penalty. Lord's trial. Reward and penalty quest. Lord's trial. Obtain a noble steed. Obtain a new territory. Obtain a new structure. Obtain a 5 citizens. Reward. What just happened? Izuku asked in a daze. Don't ask me. Kendo raised her hands in surrender. You're a weird one, Midoriya. I don't mind that, Kendo stated. As romantic as this is, I need to speak with Midoriya-sen. Akashi suddenly spoke, making Izuku and Kendo blush. In a flash of light, Izuku and Akashi were teleported into an office. What was that? Izuku asked as he tried to regain his balance. Sorry about that. My quirk does that. A large man spoke with an American accent. I'm Victor Stone. Nice to meet you. The man spoke. The man had dark skin and a very large build. He had a shaved head and wore a bandana, also dressed in the school's uniform. Izuku Midoriya. Before Izuku geek out about the man's quirk, Akashi gave him a case. What's this? Izuku asked. A benefit of becoming an uncrowned king, Akashi answered. What is that anyways? Izuku wondered. An uncrowned king is a title given to students here that proven their worth after overcoming hardship, Akashi explained. Then how did you know that I overcome any hardship? Izuku looked confused. You'll find out after meeting Momoi, Victor answered. Okay. Izuku opened the box and found 2 ID cards and a key. A key. A key. Victor repeated. Uncrowned kings are given gifts based on their abilities, Akashi informed. Huh? What do you mean, Dash? Izuku was cut off by his quirk. You have obtained a new property. There is an empty room on the 7th floor with your name on it. Akashi revealed. Isn't a private room given to all uncrowned kings? Victor asked. Midoriya-san, take the key out, Akashi said. Izuku did as he was asked and pulled the key out. Apparently, it was connected to a key holder that had 2 more keys. Have fun, Midoriya-san. Next chapter, Uncrowned Kings. Izuku exited the elevator to the 7th floor. The rooms Akashi gave him were all on the 7th floor and were next to each other. 704, 705, and 706 were the rooms given to him. As he began searching, he found 6 golden tablets hung in the hallway. Found it. Izuku saw a door with his name on it. Opening the door, he found that it was completely empty. Nothing but the white wall and lights. Going to the other room, Izuku saw that this one had work benches. The last room was also empty, but this one was mostly a balcony. How exactly do I use these rooms, though? Izuku asked himself as he went out to the balcony. He had a clear view of the arenas from his position. He took out a chair from his inventory and took a sit, checking over his active quests. Quest, become stronger. Main quest, physical strength. Carry a small rock for 10 kilometers. Carry it 10 branches for 10 kilometers. Carry a medium-sized rock for 10 kilometers. Carry a tree trunk for 10 kilometers. Carry a boulder for 10 kilometers. Carry a log for 10 kilometers. Reward, Lord's Fortress. Sub-quest, combat. Swing a hammer 10,000 times. Swing a crowbar 10,000 times. Reward, Lord Sword. Sub-quest, control. Catch 10 falling leaves 10,000 times. Catch a bird without harming it 10,000 times. Catch a fist with your hands 10,000 times. Reward, Lord Heart. Reward and penalty quest, Lord's Trial. Obtain a noble steed. Obtain a new territory completed. Obtain a new structure. Obtain a 5 citizens. Reward. Looking over it all, Izuku felt exhausted already. Izuku noticed something from his most recent quest. Structure? Izuku raised an eyebrow. Does it want to build something? Deciding to try it out, Izuku used the build function to remodel the balcony room, adding some built-in tables and benches, along with replacing the railings with a new one. As usual, it ate out his energy, but with Izuku constantly running out of energy, he now had a larger pool of energy inside him. Building complete. Izuku looked pleased with his work. Reward and penalty quest. Lord's Trial. Obtain a noble steed. Obtain a new territory. Completed. Obtain a new structure. Completed. Obtain 5 citizens. Reward. Now how am I going to get citizens? Izuku rubbed his chin in thought. Izuku decided to deal with that later, since he still had class to attend. You look tired, my friend. All Might asked Tsukauchi. Well, I just had to deal with some things, the detective replied. I'll say, you suddenly ordered a raid on a high school. All Might said, that's because Rikuzen is involved. Tsukauchi revealed. You mean that elite school monopolizes talents? All Might raised an eyebrow. Yes, it would seem they found an uncrowned king. Tsukauchi rubbed his forehead. Uncrowned king? That sounds like something a chunny would say. All Might chuckled. It's a title they give to students who have bright futures that had a hard life. Tsukauchi explained. I don't see the point, my friend. All Might look confused. Basically, they're powerful with a thirst to prove themselves. You actually know an uncrowned king yourself, Toshi, Tsukauchi said. Really? Who? Endeavor. I didn't know Endeavor was from Rikuzen. All Might spoke. Not many people care what high school heroes come from. They only care about the university that trained them to be heroes. Tsukauchi reasoned. I see. It's just that Rikuzen treats their prodigies like a treasure, especially they had a history of suffering. Tsukauchi explained. That sounds ominous, All Might commented. Well, the owner of the school is quirkless, so he's awfully fond of his uncrowned kings, Tsukauchi said. I still do not understand the whole uncrowned kings thing. What makes them different from other talents? All Might asked as the skinny man drank some of his tea. I don't know much myself. I don't exactly like getting involved with them if possible, Tsukauchi answered. They have dirt on you, don't they? Tsukauchi didn't answer. Classes were pretty normal, although they spent more time with physical exercises than any other subject. At this point, Izuku was just glad he doesn't need to walk home. Using his beacon, he teleported into his house, only to find a beautiful woman tied up using some vines. Izuku recognized the woman as the number 7 hero Mirko. Get this thing off me, Mirko ordered. Izuku ordered the nature fairy to release Mirko. Through it all, Izuku stared at the fairy like it was a god. Being able to capture a hero was quite the achievement after all. How can I help you, Mirko-san? I want your carrot. Mirko shouted. Izuku blushed. Not that carrot. The golden carrot. Mirko correct. Oh. Izuku blushed in embarrassment. Come on, name your price. Mirko said. Quest. Thick thighs. Request Mirko to squeeze your head with her thighs. Reward. That has nothing to do about being a landlord. Izuku yelled in his head. Come on, kid. I don't have all day. Mirko grumbled. Fuck it. See, can you squish my H-head with your thighs? Izuku decided to risk it all. Not the first time asked that off me. Still weirds me out, though. Mirko said. What's in it for me, though? Mirko narrowed her eyes at Izuku. I'll give you 5 of them. Izuku immediately said. Deal. Come here, you degenerate. Mirko grabbed Izuku by the head, then squeezes between her thighs. Quest completed. Reward. Flare Stallion. You're the 3rd person I did this for, Mirko mentioned. I am. Izuku asked as he got up. Yeah. The first one was Midnight, then Ryukyu, Mirko said as she began eating the golden carrots. Now, when will you get more? Mirko asked. I have more. I plant them after all. Izuku said, not at all realizing what he did. Mirko's eyes narrowed at him. How old are you? She asked ominously. 16. Izuku felt fear. Damn it, you're too young, Mirko grumbled. F for what? Izuku asked. To get married, the rabbit heroine revealed. You're going to marry for golden carrots. Izuku said in shock. I doubt I'll find someone I actually like. Might as well do it for some good food. Mirko shrugged. I must be dreaming. Izuku chuckled. Yeah, I'm dreaming. No wonder I was squeezed between Mirko's amazing thighs. Izuku kept chuckling. Mirko stared at the kid in concern. Akashi looked at the newly renovated room. He works fast, Himuro commented. Tatsuya Himuro. Quirk, illusion movement. His quirks allows him to create illusions that can move while he becomes invisible. He is able to create up to 8 illusions. Overuse of his quirk could lead to a painful headache. It's his quirk after all. Momoi spoke. Satsuki Momoi. Quirk, databank. She can obtain any public information available. If she strains her quirk, she is able to know information done in a public area even if there were no witnesses. She faints if she overuses her quirk. And we will help him discover his potential, Akashi added. Seijiro Akashi. Quirk, Emperor. He is able to give an absolute order to anyone with a weaker will than him. A person can resist if their will is strong enough. Giving an order strains his body, which resulted in his body adapting to it, giving him enhanced physical abilities. Next chapter, Tenant. Everything all right, kid? Mirko asked as she munched on a golden carrot. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. Izuku replied as he used his quirk to build an apartment. Well, it's listed as an apartment on his quirk. But with Izuku's design, it looked more like a luxury condominium. The energy needed to build it would be nightmare for Izuku too. You know, kid, I've been watching you work for hours, and you don't look a single bit tired, Mirko commented. Thank you. Izuku looked confused. You got a stamina quirk or something? Mirko asked. No, I just got a lot of stamina since my quirk frequently drains on it. Izuku answered. Mirko just stared at Izuku, making him uncomfortable. Yup, definitely living here, she grinned. Can I ask why you want to live here? Izuku asked no trace of the always nervous teenager. Might as well get used to it. I'm snatching you up when you turn 18 after all, Mirko bluntly revealed. Won't people accuse you of grooming? Izuku asked, fearing for his life. I don't really care about that. Why? You don't want me? Mirko smirked as she grabbed Izuku by the head and squashed him between her thighs. The only reply that was heard from Izuku was some muffled words. Even if you refuse, I can just seduce you, Mirko commented as he released Izuku. Izuku panted as he regained the freedom to breathe. My life flashed before my eyes. Izuku muttered as he kept getting weaker from his energy being drained by his quirk. Don't worry, kid. I don't mind if you have more than one wife. Polygamy has been legal ever since some quirks that have sexual needs popped up, the rabbit heroine said as she watched the condominium build itself. I'm definitely dreaming, Izuku muttered as he stared at the ground. The next day, Izuku stood in front of Akashi, who was next to a man with a book for a head. Izuku couldn't help but stare in wonder. This is Professor Aino Koji. Akashi spoke. Nice to meet you, Professor. Izuku bowed. It's nice to meet you too, young Midoriya. No, I shall explain why you're here, the professor replied. Yes, sir. Izuku stood straight. Being an uncrowned king has many benefits. One of your caliber, even more so, the professor started. The only thing we can do to help your physical training is to give you the resources, but knowledge is a different story, the professor spoke, making Izuku wonder where his voice even comes from. What do you mean, sir? Izuku asked. We'll be using Professor's quirk on you, Akashi informed. My quirk allows me to transfer information of any book I have touched to any person, but it is mentally taxing on the person, the professor explained. We plan on using it on you, so you have more time to train and not worry about classes, Akashi added, but only if you can handle it. Izuku's face showed a very determined expression. I can do it, Izuku exclaimed. His confidence is because of your quirk, isn't it? The professor whispered to Akashi. Akashi just smiled. The professor grabbed Izuku's face. 1 month later. Mind telling where you've been the past month? Ryukyu asked her friend. Why? Missed me? Mirko asked. The rabbit heroine was currently dressed in some casual clothes. A white sweater and blue jeans. You suddenly stopped coming here to sleep, and no other agency reported that you stayed it there, so it's concerning, Ryukyu said. I just found a place to live, Rumi shrugged. A place you actually want to live in? Really? Ryukyu looked shocked. What's that supposed to mean? Mirko raised an eyebrow. Do you know how whiny you are about where you stay? You don't even like staying in a 5-star hotel room. Ryukyu shouted. Not my fault I have good standards, Mirko huffed. Good is an understatement. I want to see this place, Ryukyu stated. Why? Rumi raised an eyebrow. If it gets you to actually live there, then I want to see just how good the place is, Ryuko replied. Mirko felt nervous for some reason. Izuku had a dazed expression as he followed behind Itsuka. You good? Itsuka asked in concern. Yeah, just getting used to a whole year's worth of knowledge jammed in my head. Izuku replied. All right. For a second there, I thought you were staring at my ass, Itsuka said as she unconsciously covered her behind. And no, I didn't mean to. Izuku panicked. Don't worry, we already cleared it up, Itsuka said. Both of them were outside of school and were heading to the mall. It was actually the first time Izuku would be going on a date, and it was because of his quirk. So do you go around asking people fuck you? Itsuka asked with a teasing smirk. And no, that wasn't what I meant back then, Izuku replied. You definitely surprised me, though. Not many guys actually like a boyish girl like me, Itsuka said. Then it's their loss, Izuku said. Look at you being smooth. Itsuka punched his shoulder playfully. Quest hand in marriage? Could you stop that? Izuku mentally screamed. Mission failed. Penalty quest. Survive? Izuku's eyes widened. The building suddenly exploded. It was the Ryukyu agency. Get down! Izuku pulled Itsuka towards him as he summoned his earth fairy to create a dome of earth to protect them. What's happening? Itsuka asked as the screams of the people filled the area. Heroes were busy evacuating people as Ryukyu was facing what looked like a giant snake. Izuku could see a white blur as well, which was most likely Mirko. Get the hell out of here. A hero rudely yelled at them. Itsuka began to pull Izuku to get to safety. I need to help. Izuku spoke. We're not licensed. We could get in trouble, Itsuka argued. Izuku clenched his teeth. Go. He ordered his earth and nature fairy to help. I hope you don't get in trouble for that, Itsuka said. We can at least help with evacuation. Itsuka pointed to a shop that had its entrance blocked by debris. Right. Izuku nodded. Where the hell did this guy come from? Mirko asked. Ryukyu roared in her dragon form as she slammed her tail on the giant snake. The snake had lime-green scaled body. It was probably 50 to 60 feet long. Instead of an actual snake head, though, it had a bird-life head with an exposed brain. Let's just take care of it as soon as possible, Ryukyu growled. As both heroines began to charge, the snake scales began to glow and unleashed a bombardment of scale bullets everywhere. Ryukyu's agency building was basically being demolished at this point. Ryukyu got in front Mirko to shield her from bombardment, but neither of them expected what came next. The snake began to change color to black as it suddenly began to crash down through each floor. What the hell is it trying to do? Mirko shouted as they chased after the giant snake. It's trying to bring down my whole building, Ryukyu yelled. Whenever they got close, the snake unleashed another rain of scale bullets at them, making it hard for them to stop it from crashing to the floors. The snake showed so many different quirks that everything felt like it was some sort of nightmare for the two heroines. Before it could reach the lowest floor, the debris began to move and slam into the snake. Then large vines shot out of the concrete and binded the snake. I know those too, Mirko exclaimed. Focus on the snake. Ryukyu prepared to put all her strength into one attack. With incredible force, she slammed her claw at the snake's head, leaving a wound indenting its skull. Mirko followed with a drop kick that sent the snake crashing through another floor. The fact that it was still twitching unnerved the two heroines. Is that thing even a person? Mirko asked. From what I've seen, it's some sort of experiment. That's why I didn't hesitate to use lethal force. Ryukyu glared at the snake. So it wasn't because it destroyed your agency? Mirko raised an eyebrow as she looked around. Everything is beyond repair. Ryukyu looked like she wanted to cry. Mirko didn't know what to do, so she just helped the police take the snake monster. Thank you, dearie, an old woman said as Izuku got rid of all the debris blocking the store's entrance. No problem. Izuku smiled. It looked like the fight was over, so Izuku ran toward the agency. Itsuka just looked at him with an expression that said, seriously? Next chapter. The Mark. Mirko is a great hero. Nobody dared to tell her otherwise, or they just didn't want to tell her that to her face. But she wasn't good at comforting others. My building, Ryukyu mumbled as she sulked in a corner. Ryuko. Mirko didn't know what to say, so she did the one thing she could. She grabbed the 2 floating fairies. Look, they're cute. Mirko held the 2 fairies in front of Ryukyu. Ryukyu just stared at her. Mirko began to sweat. A few moments later, a boy with green hair ran up to Mirko. Mirko-san, the green-haired boy called out. Perfect timing, runt. Mirko grabbed the boy and placed him in front of Ryukyu. Fix her building. Ryukyu didn't bother to turn around, as she didn't want to see that craziness of her friend right now. But I can't fix buildings on land I don't own, the green-haired kid replied. Ryukyu raised an eyebrow. Either the kid is full of himself, or he could actually fix the building, Ryukyu thought. Then just let her live at your place, Mirko suggested. Rumi, that's a little much. Ryukyu spoke up. It'll be fine. The place is like heaven, Mirko said proudly. I highly doubt that, Ryukyu replied. Ryukyu ignored the strange feeling of her chest heating up. I'm moi, sorry moi for moi, doubting moi you. Ryukyu kissed Izuku in the cheek as she spoke. She was currently on the softest bed she ever laid on while using Izuku as a body pillow. This is rich coming from me. But I don't think you should be doing that to a 16-year-old, Mirko spoke. I'm almost 17, Izuku mumbled. Of course you are moi. Ryukyu kissed him on the forehead. I'm not one to brag, but I had that kid between my thighs. Mirko said smugly. Not one to brag, my ass. Ryukyu and Izuku thought as they stared at Mirko. How much did it cost to make this place? Ryukyu asked. 2 days' worth of energy. Izuku replied. Ryukyu looked at him with a confused expression. The kid's quirk uses energy to build stuff, Mirko explained. The furniture? Ryukyu asked, digging deeper into the bed. It comes with the building. But if I make a house, it doesn't come with furniture, Izuku answered. Ryukyu stared intensely at Izuku. Izuku noticed that Ryukyu's eyes were slits from her dragon form, making him a little bit uneasy. Then Ryukyu licked her lips, resulting in Izuku immediately trying to run, only for the heroine to hold him in a tight embrace. You know there's a law about quirks that have mating instincts. Ryukyu rubbed her cheeks against Izuku's. Oi, he's mine, Mirko shouted. Ryukyu looked smugged. Don't you dare. Mirko glared. Ryukyu licked Izuku's cheeks. Mirko made a noise that would put a banshee to shame. Headmaster, are you sure about this? Akashi asked. Yes. The boy has a quirk that helps him grow. I say we help it, an old man with gray hair said as he looked at Izuku's file. But to give him this much preferential treatment might have negative effects, Akashi reasoned. A boy who had no power knows the value of such power. I believe in the boy Akashi, the old man said as he smiled fondly at the picture of Izuku, looking like he was being held at gunpoint. Then I will inform him. Akashi bowed. Thank you, Akashi. The old man watched as Akashi left the room. Show me what a true uncrowned king can do, boy. Izuku pinched himself, trying to make sure that he wasn't dreaming. Ryuko had used him as a body pillow all night, while Rumi stomped out to her room. Both of them weren't paying rent, but Izuku didn't tell them that he was receiving other benefits from their presence. He looked at his quirk as he went outside onto the field. Reward and penalty quests. Lord's Trial. Obtain a noble steed, completed. Obtain a new territory, completed. Obtain a new structure, completed. Obtain a 5 citizens, to reward. Now Izuku only needed 3 more. Ruokukyu. Someone exclaimed as a blue comet slammed into Ryuko. Nijire. Ryuko yelled in surprise. The agency was destroyed. Nijire said in horror. I know, how did you find this place? Ryuko asked. We brought her along, boss. A red-haired woman wearing a kunoichi outfit spoke. Kushinakaim. Hero name, Kunoichi. Quirk, ghost chain. Her quirk allows her to summon spectral chains made out of her energy. The more energy she uses, the stronger the chains. You know we can't stop her. A brown-haired woman with a toned, muscular body similar to Mirko followed. Rinoboro. Hero name, Plexus. Quirk, detect. Her quirk allows her to identify anything that will be harmful to her by sending a nerve signal from which body part it is closest to her brain. So what now, boss? Kushina asked. I don't know what to say. It will be ailing time before we can rebuild the agency, Ryukyu said. That's a shame, by the way. I didn't know there was a hotel here. Rin pointed at the very luxurious-looking hotel. That's because it wasn't here a month ago, Mirko said as she arrived on a flaming horse. Is that horse on fire? Nijire exclaimed. Endeavor would kill to have that, Kushina stated. I can make you a temporary agency here if you want. Izuku spoke up, and all the ladies turned to him. You do that for me? Ryuko blushed. Kushina, Rin, and Nijire stared at Ryukyu in shock. Boss, did you mark a kid? Kushina asked. Marked. Izuku looked at them in confusion. Oh my God, Rin mumbled. Nijire was vibrating, making everyone concerned. Izuku ran for his life. Lord's trial completed. Reward, zone capture. Zone capture allows the Lord to turn an area into his territory temporarily. Izuku saw the panel after he finished making a temporary agency for Ryukyu. It was a 4-story building with a symbol of a dragon head on each of its 4 sides at the top floor. I'll make sure to reward you after the paperwork, Ryuko winked seductively at him. What does that mean? Izuku asked nervously. People marked with animalistic quirks can get married early and have multiple wives after the paperwork is done, Kushina explained. Izuku fainted. Next chapter, Izuku versus Akashi. Izuku stood in front of Akashi at the center arena of Rikuzen High School. Why am I here? Izuku said nervously as the while school was watching them. To be honest, we were just supposed to be fighting in a training room. But Akashi turned to the rest of the uncrowned kings. Place your bets. Victor shouted. Momoi and Tatsuya were collecting food vouchers from the students and giving them tickets. You can bet with food vouchers? Izuku looked at the situation in confusion. It's only illegal if money is involved, Akashi stated. Aren't you the student council president? Izuku asked, wondering why Akashi was allowing this. Yes, I am, Akashi said just as the match began. Now, Neil. Akashi's left eye turned gold as Izuku fell to one knee. Then Akashi was leaning down low, aiming a diagonal cross to Izuku's face. Izuku gritted his teeth as the attack sent him flying and crashing into an invisible wall. In a moment, Akashi was already above him, an axe kick aimed at his chest. Izuku crossed his arms to block, but, futile, make way. Izuku undid his guard and the kick slammed down on his chest. Fight back, Midoriya. Izuku heard Kendo scream from the stands. Unyielding tenacity has been activated. I can do this all day. Izuku stood up, calling out his gear. Disarm, Akashi ordered. You're on your own. Izuku's gear vanished, leaving him with only his bare hands. Some fucking quirk you are. Izuku exclaimed as Akashi charged at him again. Freeze. Izuku felt his body get paralyzed as Akashi unleashed a flurry of blows at him. Izuku just stood there and took all the attacks. Then a back kick sent him crashing to the barrier once again. The crowd cheering for Akashi to finish him off. This is the part where you say that this isn't fair, Akashi said as he walked towards Izuku. It was never fair since the beginning. Izuku muttered as he was barely getting up. The dash. Akashi was cut off by a hammer, barely missing his head. IT was never fair. Izuku roared as far deeper voice came out of his mouth. Instead of the Lord's hammer, a rectangular metal hammer was seen. The head resembled a large sledgehammer, but the handle was only the same length as a regular hammer. With a hum, Akashi watched as the hammer stopped midair and returned to Izuku's hand. What is that? Akashi's eyes widened as lightning struck, blocked by the barrier. Lord's hammer has been upgraded to Mjolnir. Akashi was not prepared for the hammer slam into his gut, sending him crashing through the barrier. The crowd was silent as Izuku just stood in the arena before falling to his knees and losing consciousness. Well, that was something, Satsuki said as she counted the food vouchers she had. You knew this was going to happen, didn't you? Victor pointed an accusatory finger at Satsuki. Now, why would you say that? Satsuki said innocently as she left the room. You'll get your revenge next time. Tatsuya patted Victor on the back. Both of them lost all their food vouchers. Izuku woke up to find that he was in the school infirmary. Good to see that you're all right. A woman with periwinkle hair spoke. Izuku tried to speak, but no sound came out. Just rest. My name is Saiko Intelli. 3rd year. Saiko began to pour some tea. I'm one of the 6 uncrowned kings. With the last one recently graduating, you're now the 6th. Izuku just stared at how elegant she drank tea. If you want a kiss, you can just ask, Saiko teased. Tried to say something again, but he only failed began to cover his blushing face. Momoi was right. You are fun to tease. Saiko smiled. Then her expression turned serious. Well, I was simply tasked to inform you something since Akashi is currently unconscious, Saiko stated. You no longer need to attend classes and will strictly focus on training, Saiko revealed. Izuku looked in shocked, wanted to ask questions. Goodbye. Saiko smiled before Izuku's vision darkened once again. What's he doing? Nijire whispered to Ryukyu. I don't know either, Ryuko replied as they watched Izuku carry a bunch of sticks and ran around the field. Are we supposed to be watching a training montage? Kushina asked. Isn't there supposed to be some soundtrack playing then? Nijire asked. We're not in some shounen manga, Nijire, Ryukyu stated. Rin barged into the room, carrying a speaker on her shoulder, playing workout music. We don't take no for an answer, boss, Rin exclaimed. Ryukyu just sighed. Izuku held a letter in his hands. Dear Mr. Midoriya, as the principal of Rikuzenhai, I grant you permission to focus on your training provided to you by your own quirk. Any lessons needed will be transferred to you via Professor's quirk. Izuku read to the letter in disbelief. The fact that he woke up in his own home didn't bother him at all anymore. He just stared at the panel in front of him that refused disappear now. Quest, become stronger. Main quest, physical strength. Carry a small rock for 10 kilometers. Carry 10 branches for 10 kilometers. Carry a medium-sized rock for 10 kilometers. Carry a tree trunk for 10 kilometers. Carry a boulder for 10 kilometers. Carry a log for 10 kilometers. Reward, Lord's Fortress. Sub-quest, combat. Swing a hammer 10,000 times. Swing a crowbar 10,000 times. Reward, Lord Sword. Sub-quest, control. Catch 10 falling leaves 10,000 times. Catch a bird without harming it 10,000 times. Catch a fist with your hands 10,000 times. Reward, Lord Heart. Izuku as he ran around the field with sticks tied to his back, while swinging a crowbar and a hammer around. Despite everything he did, the quest didn't budge. Am I doing something wrong? Izuku muttered. In the distance, Izuku saw his ankylosaurus swinging its tail with perfect precision to cut through a tree. At that moment, Izuku found out what was missing. The quest wouldn't accept the action unless it was done perfectly. Taking a stance and performing a swing that resembled someone cutting down a tree with an axe, Izuku beamed with pride. Quest, become stronger. Main quest, physical strength. Carry a small rock for 10 kilometers. Carry it 10 branches for 10 kilometers. Carry a medium-sized rock for 10 kilometers. Carry a tree trunk for 10 kilometers. Carry a boulder for 10 kilometers. Carry a log for 10 kilometers. Reward, Lord's Fortress. Subquest, combat. Swing a hammer 10,000 times. 1. Swing a crowbar 10,000 times. Reward, Lord Sword. Subquest, control. Catch 10 falling leaves 10,000 times. Catch a bird without harming it 10,000 times. Catch a fist with your hands 10,000 times. Reward, Lord Heart. Let's do this. Izuku exclaimed. Next chapter. The Lord. Itsuka stood in front of the entrance of the school that served as her high school. The prestigious school that helped her be ready to take her next step to be a hero. But something was missing. Everything all right, Izuku? Sekigai asked. Yeah, it's just that the years passed by so fast. Izuku looked at her high school diploma. Are you sulking because Midoriya literally disappeared after 1 week of school? Sekigai had a smirk on her face. And no, Izuku denied. Well, he didn't even attend graduation, so I can understand how you feel. Sekigai said as she saw her parents waving at her. I need to go. Keep in touch. Sekigai waved goodbye to Izuku. Izuku could only wave as she watched her friend leave. Good luck at UA Kendo. Akashi approached her. Good luck as well, Akashi-san. Izuku replied to her now former student council president. Do say hi to Izuku at UA for me. Akashi had the same smirk as Sekigai. Izuku could only blush. Why do they keep teasing me with that jerk who disappeared on me? Izuku grumbled as she walked along the side of the beach. The beach used to be a dump, but someone apparently cleaned it after buying it. A large portion of the area was completely covered by a giant wall of wood, even the water. Whatever is being built in there must be massive. Izuku commented as she noticed a group of people trying to break in the wall. Izuku was about to take action when the ground began to tremble. You have entered a challenge zone. Welcome to the Noble Trials. Trial, Abyss Manta. What's going on? Izuku asked in confusion. What the hell is that? A man ran out of the hole they made in the wooden wall. Fuck. Let's get out of here. A woman from the group shouted. One side of the wall collapsed and Izuku froze at the sight. A giant dark blue manta ray with black underside floated in the air as if it was in water. Moving like it was swimming, the manta ray began to chase the running group of people. They said it was going to be easy cash. One of them yelled, Shut up and run. Another shouted. Izuku could only watch as water began to stream around the manta before it crashed onto beach, creating a giant wave of water to seaload up the group. She began to run before she was taken by the waves as well. Luna cannon. Mirko shot like a bullet, hitting the approaching wave. The wave dispersed, revealing that group of trespassers were unconscious. You all right, kid? Mirko asked Izuku. Yeah, thank you, Izuku replied. The fight's not over yet. Ryukyu roared as crashed down on top of the manta ray. Where did that thing come from? Mirko asked. Probably someone who has noble-type quirk. Ryukyu answered. Damn it. Those things just popped out a year ago, and it's already a problem. Mirko cursed. Noble-type quirks. A new type of quirk that is considered to be a mix of mutation, emitter, and enhancer that focuses on the user's growth. It is also considered to be the strongest type of quirk, and remains dormant until the user is near adulthood. Call him in. Ryukyu ordered as she tried to hold down the manta. Izuku saw Mirko literally make a panel appear in front of her. A rabbit doing magic? The irony. Get over here, twerp. Mirko screamed at the panel. Then a green beam of light shot down from the sky. A hammer shot out from the beam and slammed into the manta ray. Then a bolt lightning shot down from the sky. Ryukyu got out of the way just in time as the lightning struck. Wasn't expecting to be called. A man with mane of messy green hair was revealed as the beam of light vanished. He had a muscular build and was 6 feet tall. He was wearing a sleeveless shirt that hugged his muscular frame. Izuku stared at the man, a weird feeling of fondness and anger bubbling in her chest. Then she saw his face. I'll take care of it, The man couldn't finish as Izuku suddenly slapped him. Where have you been, Izuku Midoriya? Izuku shouted. Kendo? Izuku stared at Kendo with wide eyes. You just suddenly disappeared on us, and Akashi wouldn't even tell us why. Kendo glared at him. They told me to train. Izuku replied until blast of water hit him. Midoriya, Kendo shouted in worry. That was uncalled for. Izuku muttered as endured the hit and pulled out a sword from his inventory. The Lord Sword. Did you know that you're in my territory? Izuku's voice turned deeper as his eyes glowed with power. Mjolnir returned to his hand as he held his word in the other. With amazing speed, Izuku blasted forward. The man had tried to summon another tidal wave as a charge, but giant green tortoise-like monster crashed into it. It had a mossy shell with some plant life growing on it. It was as big as Ryukyu's dragon form, maybe even bigger. It held down the manta ray as Izuku striked. Stabbing his sword on the manta, he slammed it down with Lord's impact, making a shockwave of electricity. The manta turned into fragments of light as it vanished. Just how powerful have you become? Itsuka asked. Izuku looked at his quirk. Izuku Midoriya. Property owned. 6. Beacons 1. Home. Equipment. Lord's hammer. Lord's crowbar. Lord's sword. Skills. Lord's body. Passive. Level max. The player's growth is greatly enhanced inside their territory. Lord's domain. Active. Level max. All allies within the Lord's territory will be greatly boosted. Dash active. Level 9. Boost the player's speed. Lord's green thumb passive. Any plant the Lord plants himself will grow 100% of the time. Lord's arena active. Creates a zone that acts as the Lord's territory. Hammer mastery passive. Level max. When wielding a hammer, strength increases by 200%. Crowbar mastery passive. Level max. When wielding a crowbar, speed increases by 200%. Sword mastery passive. Level 5. When wielding a sword, critical hit increases by 50%. Lord's impact active. Level 7. A powerful blunt attack. The Lord's power is increased by 800% when used. Zone capture active. Level 3. Allows the Lord to turn an area into his territory temporarily. Summons. Tremor Ankelo. Skill. Earthhammer. Earth Fairy. Skill. Soil Nourishment. Nature Fairy. Skill. Enchanted Seed. Flare Stallion. Skill. Infernal Charge. Forest Behemoth. Skill. Raging Forest. Strong enough. Next chapter. UA. Something wrong, show? President Mike asked the hobo glaring at the files on his desk. Just found a problem child in the applications. Eraserhead grumbled as he showed President Mike the file. Izuku Midoriya. What's the problem with him? President Mike raised an eyebrow as he read the file. He has a noble type quirk, Eraserhead answered. Neat. Those are pretty strong quirks, the voice hero said. But it comes with an attitude, Aizawa informed. You think the kid will be arrogant? Mike asked as he handed the file back. No. People with noble type quirks tend to have a grudge with people who have powerful and flashy quirks, Eraser explained. Oh, and since most students who get the hero course have strong and flashy quirks. Mike realized. I can already feel the headache. Aizawa grumbled before he drank his coffee. Mike could just stare at him. After the fiasco at the beach, Izuku had used his beacon to teleport back to his home with Itsuka. Leaving it open for Ryukyu and Mirko, Izuku went home. You owe me an explanation. Itsuka slammed her hands down on the very expensive-looking table in front of her. I got busy. Izuku raised his hands in surrender. That's all you have to say? Itsuka yelled at Izuku. Sorry. Izuku began sweating as Itsuka kept questioning him. Itsuka just sighed as she took a seat at the suspiciously very comfy couch. You could have at least texted. I didn't have your number. Izuku looked away. Good point, Itsuka realized, so she decided to change the topic. What about the UA entrance exam? She asked. I'm ready for it. Izuku declared proudly. You better be ready when I score higher than you. Itsuka grinned at him. You'll be in for a surprise. Izuku grinned back, as the two teenagers began bantering on who would get more points. Ryukyu was watching them from the open door heading to the kitchen. Wife 2 candidate, Ryukyu muttered as she wrote it down on a notepad. This better be good Sidro. A young man with blonde hair and blue eyes, wearing a brown dress shirt and black slacks, walked beside Akashi in the halls of UA. I assure you, it would be good Ryuta, Akashi said as they arrived at a room filled with screens showing the whole practical testing area. Welcome, Mr. Akashi, Mr. Kais. Nizu greeted them. It has been a while, Principal Nizu. Akashi spoke. I'm assuming a student caught your interest? Nizu asked. More like an old friend. Akashi smiled. Kais looked at him in shock. Knowing Akashi's personality, he knew very well that Akashi never calls anyone a friend. You'd be lucky enough to get called a colleague. And who is this old friend? Nizu asked with eyes filled with interest. At that moment, a blond man that was very skinny entered the viewing room. Are you all right, sir? Akashi asked. Yeah, you look like you need a feast. Kai's added. I'm fine, young men. Thank you for your concern, the skeletal man replied. And who are these youthful boys? Midnight spoke up. Sidro Akashi. Akashi bowed. Updated profile. Sidro Akashi. Quirk. Emperor's will. Type noble. Able to make anyone follow his commands as long as his will is stronger than the target's. With the quirk's growth, several mutations have been developed as well, giving the user an eye mutation that gave enhanced vision and short-term foresight. Constant strain on the body also forced a mutation that increased the body's physical abilities. Ryuta Kai's, the younger blonde bowed as well. Ryuta Kai's. Quirk. Conqueror's records. Type noble. Allows the user to copy the skills and abilities they see as long as they are physically powerful enough to use them. A stockpile of energy is used to replicate any ability or body part required to perform the copied ability. Both of you passed the recommendation exams right. The skeletal man asked. That's correct, sir, Kai's replied. We just came to see how our future classmates will perform, Akashi informed. Well, it's about to begin, Nizu announced. And you with the green mane of hair, you have been very distracting throughout the whole briefing. If you're not taking this exam seriously, then you should leave. Izuku stared at the blue-haired guy who dared to call him out just because he was existing. Not at all, because he was muttering about the practical exam. Now, listener, we don't condone such actions at UA. You don't have any right to tell another applicant to leave because of your personal opinion. President Mike scolded the blue-haired guy, making him apologize before taking his seat. Izuku just brushed it off as another bakugo in his life, and focused on his plan. It was only a few moments later that they were taken to the testing zone by a bus. Izuku stood in front of the giant gate. He noticed one of the applicants looked nervous and wanted to try to help her calm down, only for a hand on his shoulder to stop him. She has tried dash. The blue-haired teen was cut off as he felt pressure try and choke him. Hands off, Izuku stated as his eyes glowed with power. The blue-haired teen jumped back. Go! Present Mick's voice boomed through the speakers. Izuku blasted toward the testing zone, cracking the ground where it stood. Drawing the Lord's sword and Mjolnir from his inventory, Izuku dashed toward a three-pointer with a diagonal slash, cleaving the machine in half. Time to get started. Next chapter, Panzer. Nizu watched the exam with interest. The applicants this year seemed promising to him. Children with outstanding control over their quirks, amazing combat instincts, and incredible ability to adapt. But all that failed in comparison to what's really important, the drive to save. I expected more, Kai's commented. We can't expect them to be perfect. Akashi spoke up. Is there a problem? Aizawa spoke from the dark corner he was hiding in. Kai's pointed to the scoreboard. What's the problem? All Might in his skinny form asked. Golden energy poured out of Kai's fingertip. An arrow made of energy pointed at the rescue point section of the scoreboard. The majority of the top scorers barely have any rescue points, Kai stated. That's concerning, Akashi added, but he was clearly giving most of his attention elsewhere. If I remember correctly, aren't your robots green? Akashi pointed at a screen with red robots. Oh dear, Nizu said as every hero in the room moved into action. Mike stopped the Exadash. Eraserhead said his earpiece, but was replied with nothing but static. Shit. Disgusting. A man wearing a black cloak stood on top of the roof of a building. Let's see how well you hero hopefuls handle this. The man's arm began to glow, multiple screen panels appearing around him. Down on the street, multiple red drones were summoned, taking the form of the UA bots. The drones began to move. Finally fucking found more. A teen with ash blonde hair charged at the drones, propelling himself with explosions. Die! The teen shouted as he unleashed an explosion that engulfed the black one-pointer. Take that, you fucking scrap, Metadash. The teen was interrupted by a metal hand coming out of the smoke and grabbing him by the head. Eliminate, the drone said before throwing the teen through a wall. Haha, that's what you fucking get. The cloaked man cackled as he watched everything from one of the screens. Now, let's have some more fun. Izuku stood on top of several destroyed robots, not even slightly out of breath. Something feels odd. Izuku muttered as he noticed a red two-pointer come out an alley. He was quite a distance away from the other participants to avoid stealing any points, so he didn't know much of what was happening. The red two-pointer charged at Izuku with speed that made the first bots he faced look like a snail in comparison. The tail shot forward, but stopped inches away from Izuku's left eye. That was really aimed to kill. Izuku's eyes glowed as he crushed the drone's tail in his hand. Then a bolt of lightning came down from the sky. More robots came out of the alley. Emergency quest. War. Task save, / takedown, / reward. Haven't seen one of these in ages. Izuku barely dodged a cannonball that was fired at her by a red three-pointer. She could see several of the other applicants getting trapped under a net, then getting dragged away by a red one-pointer drone. What the hell is going on? Izuku shouted as a two-pointer slammed its tail on a dude made out of metal and sending him crashing through a whole building. Get down! A pink woman with horns pushed her down as another cannonball was fired at her. The cannonball exploded into a net that captured the pink woman. Don't worry, I'll get you free. Izuku enlarged her hand to get the net off of the girl, but a metal fist drove into her side. Eliminate. A red one-pointer drone stated. Yo. The drone was hit by a sonic blast of sound that immediately destroyed it. Present Mike. Izuku, and the pink woman exclaimed. Get to the entrance, listeners, Mike said as he ran toward the Ither applicants that needed help. Izuku got the net off of the pink girl. Let's go. Right. The heroes were intercepted by the red drones the moment they reached the testing areas, stopping them from entering the fake city. Where are these things coming from? Snipe asked as he shot down another drone. I don't know, but we need to take care of them fast, Midnight said as she used her whip to fight a red one-pointer. Where's All Might? Vlad King asked. His question was answered by the symbol of peace crashing to ground near them, with ground shaking right after. A massive shadow loomed over all of them as a red zero-pointer was summoned. How many of those things do we have? Midnight asked. 6, Ectoplasm answered. You think their numbers are the same as how many of our test bots are? Aizawa asked. I sure hope not, Midnight spoke up. But there's a possibility, Ectoplasm said. Well, fuck. Next chapter. Titans. Izuku sliced a red robot in half. Then his hammer returned his hand after bashing through another robot. What's with the color change? He muttered as he looked at his surroundings. Eliminate! A robot fired a blast of energy towards him. Izuku simply blocked it with his sword, then dashed toward the robot and cleaved it in half. Open a beacon. A beam of light shot down to ground and a horse with flaming hooves and tail ran out. Then 2 winged women flew out. One of them wore a green dress that had a floral pattern, while the other wore a brown dress that had symbols resembling crystals on it. You call, my lord? Sylph, the nature fairy bowed. What's the task, my lord? Tear the earth fairy bowed. Save the applicants and destroy all the robots in sight, Izuku instructed as he got on Flare Stallion. As you command, my lord. Both fairies took to the sky. Izuku rode through Mach City, cutting down all the robots that stood in his way, heading toward the center of the city where the walls dividing the test area met. Izuku noticed the amount of robots he encountered began to increase. I guess I'm heading in the right direction, Izuku smirked. I knew one would show up. A voice echoed through the city. Izuku looked up to see a man wearing a cloak standing above a tower that wasn't there earlier. I'm guessing you're the nuisance? Nuisance? The man's voice became irate. You're the nuisance here, the man shouted as several pods suddenly dropped from the sky and began transforming into mechs. You have a lot of toys, Izuku smirked. I'm not done, the man said as the ground began shaking as 6 building-sized robots burst out of ground. Let's see how long these guys last. What are these things? Kirishima yelled as robots were charging at the applicants despite everyone being told to evacuate. One of the robots got crushed by a white blur. Get out of here, kid, Mirko yelled. How come wherever he goes, trouble follows? Ryukyu sighed. You'd fuck him anyways, Mirko said as she charged towards another robot. He's 18. Perfectly legal, Ryukyu yelled back as she transformed. There's too many, Midnight yelled as they hid behind a pillar, while a hallway filled with robots kept firing at them. "Give me cover," Snipe yelled. Cementos created a wall of cement to create some cover for Snipe to shoot from, but it was immediately destroyed by a storm of bullets. "I hate the fact that I feel useless," Midnight grumbled. "We need to find a way out of here," Eraserhead stated. "Easier said than done when Snipe is the only one that can actually fight back," Ectoplasm said. "Even the cement I used to immobilize him is easily destroyed," Cementos informed. Whoever did this was prepared. Eraserhead looked around to find anything they could use to get out. "No shit, Sherlock," Midnight responded as a bullet shot the side of the pillar she was hiding behind. The wall in front of them suddenly exploded. Then a dinosaur charged in. The bullets did nothing to it as it barreled through the robots. Everyone else saw that, right? Midnight stared blankly at the destroyed robots left by the dinosaur. Izuku Midoriya. Property owned. Beacons. Home. Equipment. Lord's hammer. Lord's crowbar. Lord's sword. Skills. Lord's body. Passive. Level max. The player's growth is greatly enhanced inside their territory. Lord's domain. Active. Level max. All allies within the Lord's territory will be greatly boosted. Dash active. Level 9. Boost the player's speed. Lord's green thumb passive. Any plant the Lord plants himself will grow 100% of the time. Lord's arena active. Creates a zone that acts as the Lord's territory. Hammer mastery passive. Level max. When wielding a hammer, strength increases by 200%. Crowbar mastery passive. Level max. When wielding a crowbar, speed increases by 200%. Sword mastery passive. Level 5. When wielding a sword, critical hit increases by 50%. Lord's impact active. Level 7. A powerful blunt attack. The Lord's power is increased by 800% when used. Zone capture active. Level 3. Allows the Lord to turn an area into his territory temporarily. Summons. Tremor Ankylo. Skill. Earth Hammer. Terra. Earth Fairy. Skill. Soil Nourishment. Sylph Nature Fairy. Skill. Enchanted Seed. Flare Stallion. Skill. Infernal Charge. Forest Behemoth. Skill. Raging Forest. Next chapter. Territory War. Ochako did her best to run away from the robots that have gone rogue and were now trying to kill them. Terminate. One of the larger robots began firing missiles at them, but before it could reach them, a wall of stone blocked its attacks. Everyone was surprised to see a beautiful woman with butterfly wings flying in the air, her chocolate brown hair flowing with the wind. Her brown dress made her smooth skin stand out even more as she danced in the sky. With a wave of her hand, spikes shot out from the ground and impaled the rogue robots. "Please evacuate to safety," her angelic voice echoed through the area. "What's your hero name?" Ochako heard one of the applicants shout. A giant robot started approaching them, towering over all of them. "My name is Terra." Terra opened her arms, then clapped. Two giant hands made out of earth came out of ground, crushed the giant robot like a fly. Managing to get out of the building, the UA teachers began to assist with the evacuation while dealing with enemies. With them being outnumbered 100 to 1, things were not looking good at all. "Any luck with requesting backup?" Aizawa asked through his earpiece. "I managed to send Sneak and SOS through, but most of the signal outside is still being blocked," Power Loader informed. "What about Nizu?" Snipe asked. "Nizu used the tunnels to call for help from outside," Power Loader replied. 13 is on her way from the USJ. To add to their current problems, several Mets arrived at their location. "What is that thing?" Midnight asked as she destroyed one of the one-pointer robots. "Probably one of the main army." Aizawa glared at the robot as he used his capture weapon to send another robot crashing towards it, only for the mech to shrug it off. Smash! All Might shot toward the mech, destroying THR mech with a punch. "Where the fuck have you been?" Midnight yelled at All Might. "We had to deal with quite the number of robots on the way as well." Akashi ran up to them with his uniform torn apart in several places. "Quite the attack," Kai's added, his body covered in oil. "We need to focus on evacuating the students." Aizawa spoke up. "Understood." Akashi and Kai's ran toward the testing zones, but stopped in their tracks as a shadow loomed over them. Is that? Kai stared at the massive plant that kept growing, then started bending towards them, almost as if it was making a bridge. The giant beanstalk crashed into the ground near them. They could see that the vines were still moving, as if it was alive. The heroes were about to attack it, but stopped when students began coming out of it. The fuck? Kai stared at the teenagers that ran out of the beanstalk. That was freakiest thing I ever experienced. One of the students yelled as he ran out. All the students from Area A to C had been evacuated. A woman with green hair and butterfly wings informed them as she flew in the sky above them. Who are you? Aizawa asked. I am Sylph, the woman answered before flying away. This day just gets weirder and weirder. The area is cleared, Terra informed Izuku when she arrived. That's all I needed to hear, Izuku said as he smashed one of the mech's head. Behemoth! Another beam of light shot down from the sky. Then a massive beast charged out and tackled a zero-pointer. You think you could defeat my army? The man yelled as he summoned more robots. Who the hell even are you? Izuku raised an eyebrow. I am Armada. The man took off his robe to reveal a military uniform. Name, Sugakogiki. Alias, Armada. Quirk, General. Type, Noble. Allows the user to summon and create mechanized creations as long as they have enough materials to create it. They are also able to replicate any mechanized creation within a 100-meter radius. Well, I wonder how long you can last, Armada. Izuku smiled as the summons gathered as well. Leave it to us, my lord. Sylph stated as Forest Behemoth activated ability and summoned a forest. With the added plant life to the area, Sylph gained even more power. Take care of the minions. Izuku began charging towards Armada, taking down any bot that tried to stop him. For my lord. Sylph used the vines and trees to take down robots to clear a path for Izuku. Name Sylph. Race. Nature fairy/adult. A fairy that was blessed with the power to control nature. They can accelerate the growth of plant life and improve their condition. Depending on how well they are raised, a nature fairy's connection to nature may grow. For his glory, Terra created a fissure on the ground that swallowed up the robots that tried to get close to Izuku. Name Terra. Race, Earth fairy/adult. A fairy that was blessed with the power to control Earth. They can shape the Earth to anything they wish. They summon earthquakes or cause landslides when angered. Depending on how they are raised, an Earth fairy can either be a great disaster or a blessing. Keep it up. Izuku grinned as he kept charging. Flare Stallion began to faster now that there weren't anything in its way. Armada looked irritated as he called upon robots that resembled spiders, only to be shot down by spears made out of rocks. You bastard! Armada roared as he continued to summon robots to only be destroyed by Izuku's summons. You're using robots designed to be taken down by students, Izuku said as he jumped off his horse. You were doomed to fail from the start. Grabbing Armada by the neck, Izuku threw him at a wall. And unfortunately for you, Armada could even react as a sword went through his chest. Izuku stared at him with glowing red eyes. I show no mercy. This is the culprit? Tsukachi asked as he approached the scene. He nodded at Eraserhead, who was standing at the side as he approached Nizu. Yes, Nizu answered. We don't know who exactly finished him off, but it was most likely one of the applicants, Nizu stated, stabbed through the chest and a bruise on the neck. Tsukachi read the file an officer gave to him. Most likely someone with super strength and has proficiency with weapons. We already have some suspicions who they could be, Nizu informed. I'll look into that later. Tsukachi responded. Does this guy have any motive for attacking? He has no connection to the school at all, not even a failed attempt at the entrance exam, Nizu answered. So, he's one of those guys, Eraserhead commented. Tsukachi sighed. He knew Eraserhead was referring to the type of people who had a vendetta against hero society. They hated the concept of heroes and most likely attacked UA, since it's considered to be the best hero school in Japan. How bad was it? Tsukachi asked. No casualties, but 57 students were injured, Nizu informed. Thankfully, no serious injuries. The report said that one of the applicants stepped in. Tsukachi glanced at the giant beanstalk stretching over the wall. Aizawa let out an annoyed sigh. A student named Izuku Midoriya intervened and helped with evacuation, getting the feeling that he had heard the name before. Tsukachi made a mental note to look it up. We'll check what we have on him, then get some statements with the involved parties. As Detective Tsukachi was leaving, he couldn't shake the feeling that everything wasn't over yet. Izuku rubbed his forehead in annoyance. Because of how large his property was, the tax he needed to pay wasn't cheap. Adding the other properties he owned around Japan, the amount he needed to pay could buy a whole building. Hard being rich. Ryuko walked into the room dressed in her hero costume. I'm thinking of making my own country at this point, Izuku answered. Done with hero work? Ryuko took a seat on his lap. Yeah, it's been really quiet after all, Ryuko stated. My sidekicks could easily handle the petty thugs that think they could cause trouble in my city. Ryuko laughed. The door suddenly slammed open. I knew you two were getting cozy without me. Mirko yelled and jumped at them. What are we doing here, Dad? Fuyumi asked as she and her father stopped in front of a massive iron wall. We're here to meet your potential husband, Endeavor stated as he got out of the car. Fuyumi clenched her hands but didn't say anything. She knew very well that going against her father would result in nothing but making her life harder, so she just went along, hoping that things would be better. As they approached the gate, a powerful roar shook the whole area. The roar had come from inside the walls, and that had made Fuyumi a bit more hesitant to continue inside. A small gate at the corner of the 5-meter-tall gate opened, and a woman with short light blue hair came out. Do either of you have an appointment? She asked as a clipboard appeared in her hands. I do, Endeavor answered. The woman stared at the hero for a moment. Name? She pulled out a pen from the pocket of her business suit. A tick mark appeared on Endeavor's face. Enji Todoroki. Here you are. Please follow me. She gestured for them to come in as she pushed open the smaller gate. Fuyumi wondered if the woman really didn't know who her father was, or was brave enough to act like that towards him. But once they were inside, they were greeted by a magical sight of cute little creatures working on a farm. Watch out! A periwinkle-haired woman yelled out as she was heading straight for them on a bull-like creature. Endeavor was about to act, but the blue-haired woman was faster. With a wave of her hand, tendrils made from water snagged the bull and the woman on it in seconds. They were smoothly placed on the side, where a familiar-looking blonde woman, wearing a red dress, began scolding the periwinkle-haired girl. I apologize for the interruption. Let us continue. The blue-haired woman turned back to Fuyumi and Endeavor. Who are you? Endeavor asked with narrowed eyes. My name is Aqua, she simply replied as she began leading them to a giant facility. What caught their eyes was a majestic horse with a red mane and a flaming tail, along with flickers of flames on its legs. Fuyumi could tell how much her father was interested by how intense his stare was at the horse. It's nice to finally meet you, Endeavor. A man came out of the facility. He stood around the same height as her father, and was almost as muscular. Aqua led them inside a lounge inside the facility and served them some tea and snacks. My name is Izuku Midoriya. May I ask why you requested a meeting with me? The man spoke as Aqua poured them some tea. Fuyumi had to admit that if this was a man she had to marry, it wouldn't be much of a problem. But even though he seemed like a good guy, Fuyumi still wanted to at least get to know him better. I came to talk about marriage. Her father went straight to the point. Midoriya glanced at Fuyumi. I'm afraid to say that I'm already engaged, he answered. Multiple wives shouldn't be a problem. Endeavor replied. May I ask why me? You're in possession of a powerful noble-type quirk. Endeavor answered. Fuyumi could see Midoriya narrow his eyes at Endeavor. What does she think? Midoriya turned to Fuyumi, waiting for an answer. Wanted her opinion. That alone pretty much wins her favor. I am not opposed to it, Fuyumi said. Then allow me to disc-a-dash. Midoriya was interrupted by the room's door slamming open. Hell yeah, Mirko shouted. We need all the help we can get with this big guy. The blonde woman from earlier that Fuyumi now recognizes as Ryukyu followed behind Mirko. I'm the fiancé here, she sighed with an exhausted expression. Fuyumi honestly felt like life here would be better. Name, Aqua. Race, water spirit. Title, Guardian of the Sea. a water spirit with the authority to call upon the power of the sea wherever she is, with the power to turn even a puddle of water into a devastating force. There's no foe that the spirit can drown. Strength A, speed A, vitality A, magic SS. It's been a while, Sidro said as he lowered the car window to greet Satsuki and Himuro. Just a few weeks, Satsuki said as she got in the car. Where are we going? Himuro asked. To Green Meadow, Sidro answered. We'll have to pick up Ryota and Victor on the way, though. That place is a restricted area, right? Himuro looked at Akashi in confusion, while Satsuki began vibrating in excitement. I can't wait, Satsuki exclaimed. What the hell's going on? Himuro scratched his head. Is that a waterfall? Fuyumi pointed at a waterfall in the distance. Yes, Izuku answered. Why is it pink? Fuyumi couldn't help but question everything she was seeing. It was as if she was in an entirely different world. She easily accepted that there were little floating workers on the farm. That could have easily been explained as a quirk. But this wasn't. You think that's weird? Wait till you see the floating island, Mirko said before jumping away. Floating island? Fuyumi turned to Izuku with wide eyes. You will get used to it, he assured her. By the way, do you have any preference on what house you want? Izuku asked as he opened the building function of his quirk. Don't you mean room? Fuyumi hesitantly asked. Izuku and Ryuko laughed. No. After several hours of destroying Fuyumi's sense of reality, Izuku had created her a traditional Japanese house. He might have gone a little overboard, but he chose to ignore it when she mentioned that it was 3 times bigger than her original home. It was around 360 feet long and 160 feet wide, then 2 stories tall. The middle part was an open area with a koi pond and garden, which Izuku did not mention to Fuyumi that the koi had the ability to shoot bubble bullets. How that worked was a mystery to him as well. He just wanted koi fishes in the pond. If you need anything else, just tell me, Izuku said before leaving to go back to the guest lounge. Akashi and the others should be arriving in a few hours, and he at least wanted to prepare a few things for them. Izuku. Satsuki latched onto him the moment they saw him. Izuku had greeted them at the gate. Happy to see everyone again. So, you're the Berserker. Ryota stepped forward. Nice to meet you, Ryo-sen. Izuku rubbed the back of his head, embarrassed about hearing the nickname they used to call him. Likewise, Ryota shook Izuku's hand. Let's head inside. Izuku gestured to them to follow him. Upon entering, everyone was amazed by the magical sight around them. I was prepared to see some unusual stuff, but I didn't expect you to have an army of stuffed animals, Victor commented as he saw the fairies doing farm work. How many are there? Akashi asked. Around 30 for each type, Izuku answered as they reached the lounge. Any preferred drink of choice? Anything is good, Akashi answered with the others agreeing with him. Oh, do you have anything magical? Satsuki asked excitedly. Coming right up, Izuku said before heading toward the kitchen. I don't know what's weirder, her asking that or him having it. Himuro mumbled. After a few minutes, Izuku came back with what they assumed to be a yellow-colored juice. Taking a sip, they immediately had the urge to chug the whole thing within seconds. What is this? Ryota asked. Carrot juice. Izuku answered simply. I'm no genius, but isn't carrot juice orange? Ryota hesitantly said, started to doubt whether that was true anymore. Carrot juice is yellow, Victor mumbled, already given up on reality. After a while to get over the carrot juice, and asked for more said juice. The group began chatting and trying to catch up. I'm going to Island in a few weeks since I have something presented in their expo this year, Victor revealed to them. Congratulations, what are you presenting? Izuku asked. That's a surprise, Victor grinned. What about you, Akashi? Izuku turned to the redhead. I was originally going to attend UA, but after what happened, I'm having second thoughts. Akashi answered. The school being attacked you even before you attend is a pretty huge red flag. Ryota shrugged. I'm going to live here. Satsuki declared proudly. Did you just decide that by yourself? Himuro raised an eyebrow. He has no choice, Satsuki said in finality. What about you, Himuro? Izuku chose to ignore Satsuki and asked Himuro. I'm going to be Shiketsu, Himura replied. Even though UA is said to be the best? Which school got attacked during their entrance exam? Touché. Fuyumi never believed in happy endings. With the life she has been through, happy endings were just things in fairy tales. Laying on her new bed that was abnormally soft and threatened to swallow her whole, Fuyumi wondered if she might have given up too early, comparing Izuku Midoriya to the men in her life. He was definitely on the top of the sadly short list. Are you okay? Ryukyu asked as she stood in front of her open door. Yes, just trying to get used to, well, everything, Fuyumi answered. Ryukyu suddenly had a very faraway look. That's going to take a while. Why did you call us here, Nizu? Aizawa asked as he sat down. Currently, all the UA heroes were gathered in a room for a meeting. I called you all here to discuss a rather problematic thing that I found out. Nizu stated as a projector flared to life and showed several images. As you all know, 2 years ago, the noble quirks began to appear, along with a never-ending headache. Aizawa grumbled. From all the data I gathered, I managed to put all the noble-type quirks registered into 3 categories: defenders, attackers, and producers. Nizu explained. A prime example of producer is Izuku Midoriya. An image of Izuku appeared on the screen. An example of an attacker would be Armada, the man that attacked us recently. What's the difference between them? Midnight asked. It's the abilities of their quirks. All noble-type quirks could summon creatures one way or another, depending on the category. The summoned creature would have different abilities. Nizu showed an image of 2 beautiful women with fairy wings. The producer category has summoned creatures that have ability that has a relation with nature or the environment. Nizu explained before showing an image of the destroyed robots from the entrance exam. Attackers have more military-related creatures. So, it's basically a war game, Aizawa figured out. Correct, but there's also unique abilities granted to the person itself, Nizu added. Armada had the ability to create firearms at will. You said you found out something problematic, Ectoplasm said. Yes, images of destroyed places and random creatures were shown. A total of over 7,000 noble-type quirks have been registered, Nizu revealed. My goodness! All Might gasped as he saw the destruction. Over 6,000 noble-type quirk owners have died in the past 2 years, Nizu informed, shocking the heroes once more. Is someone hunting them down? President Mike asked. No, either their quirk is the cause. They fought each other, Nizu answered. Why would they fight each other? All Might wondered out loud. The main reason is still unknown, but I believe it has something to do with the drawback of their quirk. Another headache coming, Aizawa grumbled. Is this the place? Tsukauchi stared at the giant wall that surrounded the area. If he had to make a comparison, this place would be able to compete with UA. Before Tsukauchi could even ring the doorbell, a gate opened and a beautiful woman with blue hair that looked like it was flowing in water stepped out, while a group of teenagers followed behind her, and one of them being trapped in a bubble. If you wish to return, do not hesitate to inform us, so we may give you a warm welcome, she stated. I don't even want to leave, the teen trapped inside the bubble yelled. That's not an option, the woman said before the bubble popped, dropping the pink-haired teen. Oh, who might you be? The woman turned to Tsukauchi. I am Detective Naomasa Tsukauchi. I need to speak with a man named Izuku Midoriya regarding what happened at UA. That would be me. A muscular teen with green hair stepped forward. Tsukauchi waited as the Izuku Midoriya sent off his friends before following him inside the property, where he proceeded to witness the strangest things in his life. As a detective, Tsukauchi was well informed about noble-type quirks, but he had never seen one this developed. What did you want to ask me, detective? Izuku Midoriya asked. Regarding Armada, what did you know of him? He was a nuisance, Izuku replied before taking a sip of his drink. Any prior encounters before the UA incident? No, first time I met him. Tsukauchi proceeded to ask more questions, all of which Izuku answered truthfully. That continued until he no longer had anything to ask him regarding the case. This isn't part of the case, but can you tell me anything regarding your quirk? Tsukauchi said. Like what? Nothing personal, just something that you believe is similar to all noble-type quirks, Tsukauchi explained. Izuku rubbed his chin in thought. I guess the ranking? Ranking. Tsukachi raised an eyebrow. From my studies, all noble-type quirks had a way to summon creatures in their own way. Izuku held out his hand, and a small green creature appeared. This is a nature fairy, and it can help plants grow faster and better. I see. Tsukachi remembered seeing a few of them on the way to the lounge. This little guy's rank is minion, meaning they're a bit weak, and there's a lot of them. Izuku explained, then gestured to the blue-haired woman from before, but now changed her appearance to a black-haired businesswoman. She's Aqua, a hero rank. I am a water spirit, with the title Guardian of the Sea. Aqua began to glow. Her hair turned blue once again, and her clothes turned into a light blue dress that looked like they were made of scales. In her hands was a trident that shined under the light. She's unique. What other ranks are there? Tsukachi asked. From the weakest minion, elite, hero, and deity, Izuku answered. From your perspective, what rank would All Might or Endeavor be placed if they were summoned creatures? The detective asked. Instead of Izuku, Aqua was the one to answer. The fiery human would be an elite at best, Aqua stated. The brute would be similar to a newly evolved hero rank. Tsukachi turned to Izuku, who only nodded. Although he found it hard to believe, Tsukachi could understand it. Endeavor would look weak in the eyes of a water-based creature, and punching water would hardly work as well. But having a way of measuring the power of these creatures would be useful. I see. Thank you for answering my questions, Tsukachi bowed. It's no problem, detective, and something you might need to know. Tsukachi raised an eyebrow. Summons don't disappear after the user's death. How is everything going, Melissa? David Shield walked into a large lab where mountains of robotic parts were laid out. Papa, Melissa exclaimed. It's going well so far, she said as an explosion rang out from where she just came from. Maybe there's some little problems. I came here to tell you that a friend of your uncle might want to ask you about details of your new quirk, David Shield informed. I don't have much to say other than I can make robots a lot easier now, Melissa replied, glancing at the pile of machines. But I'll try my best to answer his questions. I'll mention it to them then. David Shield nodded. So, what are you working on now? Oh. Melissa excitedly led her father toward a giant machine that was being held up by multiple pillars. This is all gear. Melissa patted the machine. All gear. David raised an eyebrow at his daughter. It has hundreds of different tools in it, capable of lifting over 100 tons and high-temperature resistance. Melissa listed. It's the perfect construction machine, she declared proudly. How did you manage this? David looked over the machine. It required me to sacrifice 5 machines I previously summoned using my quirk. Then I used over a dozen more to strengthen it. Melissa gestured to the piles of robotic parts surrounding them. Sounds like a game mechanic, David commented as he rubbed his chin. I'll call someone to sort this out. Might be able to use these parts in the future. Name, all gear. Rank, hero rank. Race, machine. A machine designed to be the perfect builder. Capable of building a fortress faster than an army of workers. This machine is worth its weight, with its strength and tools at its disposal. This machine does not fall short in combat. How are we going to decide who passed? Midnight asked as she placed down a stack of paperwork on the table. After checking over all the students that would draw on their application, scoring them based on the exam wouldn't be an option anymore. Nizu said as he looked at the list of students left. I suggest you put them through an interview. Eraserhead spoke up. It would be a good way to weed out the troublesome ones. We could also have them go through others like a medical check with Recovery Girl and a mental look over by Hound Dog, Midnight suggested. I'll inform Recovery Girl and Hound Dog then, Nizu replied. It would be best to add a session with Power Loader for the support gear and 13 for quirk safety. I think a proper background check would also be needed, Snipe added. It's not impossible for another unsavory type to sneak in. The majority of the teachers agreed. They continue to discuss how they will handle the upcoming semester and how to make sure another incident would not happen. Failure again, all for one said as another body turned to dust. These noble-type quirks are becoming quite a nuisance. Perhaps there is something preventing you from taking them, my lord, Garaki suggested. I'm aware of that, but it is as if there is no quirk to take. All for One explained. It feels no different than touching a quirkless person. Maybe something similar to One for All? Thousands of quirks being given away by someone else? Highly unlikely, All for One said. But one powerful quirk. A manic smile appeared on All for One's ruined face. The king of the underworld began to cackle. Is this necessary? Rumi grumbled as they entered an elevator. You could just stayed home, Ryuko said as she pressed a floor number. And let you have this hunk of meat all to yourself? No way, she exclaimed as she hugged Izuku from behind. Please maintain some decency while we're not home, Ryuko scolded. Another thing, neither of us have even had sex with him yet, she added with a blush on her face. I guess some tongue action doesn't count as sex, huh? Rumi said with a smirk, then kicked Izuku's cheek, the man still remaining silent despite the events happening around him. At that moment, the elevator opened. Thank you for Akidash. A beautiful young woman greeted them but froze mid-sentence as she stared at Rumi, still having her tongue on Izuku's cheek. Rumi immediately stepped back, looking away. Sorry about that. Thank you for having us. Ryuko spoke up. Why, yes, I'm Momo Yaoyorozu. Please follow me. Yaoyorozu hurriedly walked away, Izuku and the others following after her. Ryuko wiped Izuku's cheek with a handkerchief as they approached the meeting room and glared at Rumi. Behave. Yeah. What's wrong with him anyways? Rumi pointed her thumb at Izuku. I don't know either. Maybe something to do with his quirk, Ryuko replied. Once they approached the meeting room, they noticed Izuku suddenly jolted. He began stretching. What did I miss? He asked the two beautiful women beside him. What just happened? Rumi asked. Just some mental aspect of my quirk. Izuku answered as they entered the room. Please make yourselves comfortable, the young Yaoyorozu stated. It has been a while, Mr. Midoriya. You greeted him with a handshake. This my brother. She gestured to the black-haired man beside her. Mako Yaoyorozu, pleasure to meet you. The man introduced himself. Izuku Midoriya, a pleasure as well. Izuku shook the man's hand before taking a seat. We'll be getting straight to the point. Mako Yaoyorozu handed Izuku a folder. We recently heard that you have acquired a way to grow a type of sheep that produces wool that is compatible with quirks. I didn't know you had that. Ryuko turned to Izuku. As a hero that transforms into a dragon, acquiring clothes that allowed her to use her quirk was quite a hassle. Not only was the supply low, but the process to tailor it specifically for her quirk took too long. You guys move fast. I had only acquired that after the UA incident. Izuku had received a sheep called Conductive Ram as a reward for defeating Armada. It was just a minion rank with no combat ability. But the product it produced had a lot of potential. We wished to obtain the majority of the first 5 releases product in exchange for these plots of land. Mako gestured the file in Izuku's hands. Those are the properties surrounding yours. You informed. I see. So your family owned those. Izuku rubbed his cheek. There was a total of 5 properties in the file, all of them being the ones surrounding Izuku's territory. The size of the properties wasn't that big, probably large enough to build a house with front and backyard. Do we have a deal? Mako asked. We do. Izuku offered a handshake. I'm no businesswoman, but shouldn't there be more talking? Rumi whispered to Ryuko. Ryuko shrugged. How's the expansion going? Ryuko asked as she approached Izuku. With the added area. Izuku began constructing a wall around it. This was the first time that he actually felt his energy being drained in a long time. Pretty good. Once I'm done with the walls, I can release the rams. Izuku replied as another wall materialized in front of him. How many did you get? Ryuko looked at the walls that stood twice as tall as her in dragon form. I only got one as a reward, but I'll be able to get more from the shop, Izuku replied. You think it will turn into a heroic rank someday? I don't think so, Izuku responded. The main requirement for a summoned creature to rise in rank was either a rank-up reward or by gaining experience by doing tasks. Production types barely gain experience despite working every day, compared to combat types that gain a lot of experience with each win. If production types gain experience at the same rate, Terra and Sylph won't be as only elite rank fairies. A thing to keep in mind is that only hero ranks have actual names before they were even summoned. Sylph and Terra were named by Izuku. Still possible, Might take a while, though. Ryuko looked on the bright side. Yeah, by the way, seems like you're not busy today, Izuku said with a smile. Considering the owner of my building told me to take a day off and has a water goddess preventing me from going in, I don't have much of a choice, Ryuko responded with a smirk. Everybody needs a break, Izuku said as he placed a last batch of walls for the day. I've always wondered, why do you need to place such high walls? Ryuko asked in confusion, not to mention the quality of it. Even I won't be able to dent it. Because my quirk warned me, Izuku answered. Warned you of what? Ryuko asked in concern. Other people with similar quirks, Izuku said as they began walking back to their house. Is it because noble quirk users started going to war with each other? That, and I'm sure a lot of people want what I have, Izuku answered. Well, if it came down to it, you have me and Rumi, Ryuko promised. Thank you, Izuku replied. Oh, Ryuko reacted when she felt Izuku pinch her ass. Keep that up, and I might not be able to wait for our marriage to be legalized. It's reassuring to know that the only thing stopping you is the thought of doing something illegal, Izuku said, then pinch her again. Come here, Ryukyu roared. I hope you bring pleasant news, Doctor. All for one spoke as Garaki entered the room. Some machinery was tossed towards him, but he easily avoided it while slashing for mechanical arms. This is getting troublesome. The man raised his arm. Caliban, an armored warrior with a lance appeared. Distract the machine. The armored warrior began fighting all gear, barreling through the mechanical behemoth's attacks. The man focused his attention on Melissa. Burning spear, he launched the spear toward Melissa. She tried to create another wall again, but the spear blazed through. The workshop exploded. Melissa fell helpless, as a searing pain was all she felt on her left side. Everything was on fire, and the sounds of footsteps getting closer weren't assuring at all. You're a hard person to kill. The man kneeled on one leg in front of her. That gave Melissa a clear look at the man. He had brown hair and looked to be a Western man. Why are you doing this? Melissa managed to groan out. Since you're asking that, you must be a production class. The man responded. It's better if less people knew about the siege class, even if you'll die either way. The man raised a spear. As Melissa waited for her death to come, a panel appeared in front of her. Assistants arrived. A trident pierced the man's shoulder and sent him flying toward the far wall, hanging him on the wall. A wave of water washed over the whole lab, putting out the fire. How? Those were electrical fires. Melissa muttered as she managed to sit up. There is no fire that my pure water could not extinguish. A beautiful woman with blue hair stood in front of Melissa. Her blue dress moved around as if they were submerged in water, with white frills flowing along with it. Is it pure enough to knock and do dash? Do not bother with the technicalities, young lady, the woman stated. The man pulled the trident off, freeing himself. Another hero ranked Caliban. The armored warrior from earlier burst out of rubble and charged towards them. His lance began to glow as he neared, and Melissa feared that the woman in front of her would die because of her. A common mistake is assuming all creatures of the same rank are equal. The woman held up her hand, and her trident flew out of the man's grasp and back to her. The trident spun in her hands with water flowing with it, creating a whirlpool-like effect. Caliban's lance clashed with the whirlpool, creating a shockwave that blew back Caliban. Who the fuck are you? Why are you in turf dash? The villain didn't get a finish as the trident pierced his chest. Gah! He coughed out blood as the trident was recalled, leaving the man to bleed out. Caliban didn't disappear. Instead, he tried to attack once more. Too much talking in a fight never results in anything, the woman commented as she parried Caliban's lance, then sent a wave of water to push him back. My master has no need for you as a servant, but I cannot simply let you be. The woman pointed her trident towards Caliban. Then a powerful compressed blast of water fired and struck Caliban on the chest, leaving a clean hole. The summoned creature shattered into gray fragments of light, and metallic card fell to the ground. Melissa watched as the woman who saved her elegantly walked towards it, her dress flowing in the air. She picked up the card, then turned back to her. Have medical personnel not yet arrived? I expected more from such an establishment. At that moment, heroes and police officers smashed the doors open. "Ah, such cliché timing," the woman commented before turning back to Melissa. "Toodaloo," she waved goodbye before turning into a puddle of water. As Izuku was facing his greatest enemy, the IRS, Aqua appeared in her true form. Did something happen? Aqua approached Izuku and placed a metal card in front of him. He picked up the card with a confused look. It had an image of an armored warrior that was in the process attacking with their lance. The armor looked medieval with the helmet, having 2 red feathers adoring it. He noticed the name written at the top. Caliban? Caliban, the Forsaken Knight. Hero rank. Element? No. Ability? Drill lance. A forsaken warrior that failed to protect their kingdom, with a vow to redeem himself. He will barrel through everything in his path. I didn't know you guys turn into cards. Izuku examined the card. He couldn't identify the metal, but he was surprised to find out that he couldn't even bend it. Not to boast, but Izuku could destroy a building with a full-powered punch. Unlike other masters, you my lord, is one of few humans that could actually sustain our active forms. So, I'm like your battery. I apologize if I offended you, master. Please punish me. Aqua began lifting her dress with a shy look. Izuku's eyes twitched. Why am I surrounded by horny women? Damn right you are. Ruomin slammed the door to his office open. You have to understand that both of us are suppressing our mating instincts until we are legally married. Ryuko followed behind her. I need an adult. Rumi and Ryuko took a seat on each side of his lap. Don't worry, Bunny, Rumi whispered. We're adults, Ryuko finished. Aqua just pouted in the corner. Those interviews were definitely eventful, Hizashi groaned. How many do we add to the tally? Namuri asked as she went to a whiteboard where a tally was written on it with the title, Number of students with overinflated egos. Inui growled. 7. That puts us at 52, Namuri grumbled. For the past weeks, they had interviewed over 1,000 students, most of which were either arrogant because of their flashy quirks or were only driven by blind greed. There were also students who didn't bother training their bodies and needed to be assessed by a recovery girl if they wanted to be given a shot. The problematic students of the bunch were outright rejected and had their files sent to the police, and their school put under investigation and pending to be banned from applying to any hero school. With the chaos happening right now, such precautions were needed, otherwise they risked another attack. They were just thankful that the newest member of their staff had a quirk to prevent any uncooperative students from making any more trouble. Finally done, a woman with long silver hair exclaimed as she plopped onto the sofa. How are you exhausted, but still look like you have a modeling gig in a minute, Mira? Namuri asked. That's a trade secret, Mira winked. Mira Shiranui. Quirk, dead zone. Type, noble/emitter. Within a certain range, she can make any living being that is weaker than her to not be able to move at all. Summons. Curse rates, elite rank. They can drain a person any living being's energy to weaken them. By the way, a few days ago there was an applicant that I couldn't use my quirk on, Mira mentioned. There was... Yeah, buff guy with fluffy green hair. The teachers present in the room immediately knew who she was talking about. Detective, what brings you here again so soon? Nizu asked as Tsukachi entered his office. It's regarding the noble type quirks, Tsukachi mentioned as he sat down across Nizu. We finally found the source. Tsukachi showed Nizu a picture of an old man. This is Takeda Kamatachi. His quirk allowed him to let people play any game he created in a more realistic point of view. Quite an interesting quirk. Yes, the only downside is that it uses his vitality, and found this out when it was too late. Tsukachi revealed. Takeda preferred games that involved a form world building and adventure, similar to themes of the noble type quirks. Nizu noticed. The detective nodded. He died a few years ago, and on his deathbed, he used his quirk for the last time, bringing all the games he created to life. Do we have a list of these games? Nizu asked. Unfortunately, we found out that upon bringing the games to reality, it consumed all data of the games he creates. A fruitful and dead-end discovery, Nizu sighed. Have you found OUT anything else? Tsukachi handed Nizu a file. From what we got after investigating Takeda, we found out that the criteria for being chosen is having a non-altered body structure. Fascinating, Nizu scanned through the file. That explains why all quirkless people gain a quirk. It also included people with quirks that very little physical influence, like Seijiro Akashi's mental quirk. Ryota Kai's also gained a noble-type quirk despite his quirk being somewhat powerful already, Nizu mentioned. We consider that too, but apparently energy-type quirks that don't offer direct enhancement are still passable. That's why Toshi didn't get a boost despite being formerly quirkless. One for all directly enhanced the body. There's too much debatable area for any proper identification to be done, Nizu pointed out. As useful as the information was, it would be hard to use to identify any unregistered noble-type quirk users. The full capabilities of a quirk are often not found out, so it will be hard to tell whether it fit the criteria for the noble-type quirk to manifest. This is all we have for now. We're still trying to get in touch with any of Takeda's relatives to get any more useful information. Very well, though it is quite intriguing to think that a single person caused all this chaos, Nizu commented. I wonder if he's satisfied with the chaos he caused. I hope he regrets it, Tsukachi replied before leaving. Izuku was currently going through the list of his active summoned creatures, checking for anything out of the ordinary that brought his thoughts to the topic of these summoned creatures. There was too much that confused him, such as the inconsistent level power each summoned creature had even when they're the same rank. They had an evolution system, but not a level system, so it was hard to figure how strong they currently were. A prime example was Aqua, compared to other hero rank summoned creatures. She was too strong. She slaughtered every hero rank summon that she faced and did so with ease. And whenever Izuku tried to ask her about it, she didn't know the reason either. This is frustrating. Izuku pinched the bridge of his nose. All of his summoned fairies had the same level of power. Sylph and Terra were equally as powerful as elite summons. It was only hero ranks that became confusing. Heroi see evolution. Defeat Aqua. Reward. Izuku stared at the new quest. Looks like I'll be doing this the old-fashioned way. Izuku got up and made his way to the undeveloped part of his territory. It was one of the recent areas he got from the Yoyorisis. It was a barren land with a lake. If he was going to fight his strongest summon, he wanted to be in an empty place to avoid damaging any of the facilities. Aqua. At the mention of her name, the guardian of the sea appeared in front of Izuku. I don't need to tell you, right? Aqua got into a stance, aiming her trident at Izuku, not all master. A hammer materialized in Izuku's hands, then he slammed it into the ground, sending a wave of electricity everywhere. Aqua summoned a wave to block the attack, then launched her trident towards Izuku. A sword with a golden handle appeared in Izuku's hand and blocked the trident. The trident returned to Aqua, and her hair began to glow. She began spinning her trident above her head, and water began to swirl around her. Izuku's hammer began to spark, while his sword began to emit golden light. Izuku raised his hammer up. Thor's wrath has been activated, evolved from Lord's impact. Izuku jumped into the air, aiming his hammer down on Aqua. Tidal crush. Aqua unleashed a high-pressure blast of water towards Izuku. Luminous divide has been activated. Izuku spun midair and slashed the blast of water in half, then used the momentum to roll midair, continue the attack with his hammer. Heart of the sea. A dome of water appeared around Aqua, blocking Izuku's attack from getting any closer. Smite has been activated. Both of Izuku's weapons began to shine, raising both his sword and hammer into the air. He then slammed them both down onto the dome, and a bolt of lightning shot down from the sky. The dome shattered, but Aqua managed to escape just in time before the attack reached her. I apologize for this, Master. Aqua's dress began to glow as well, while the whole area began to slowly get flooded by water. Then tendrils of water began to shoot towards Izuku. He rushed towards Aqua, cutting down the tendrils that got too close to him. Lightning Surge had been activated, evolved from Dash. In an instant, Izuku was above Aqua. His hammer and sword were no longer in sight. Instead, a golden spear could be seen. Gungnir, Gungnir. The spear shot down towards Aqua, and when it was mere inches away from her head, an explosion of water blew everything away. Izuku was glad he had this fight away from the facilities. Otherwise, everything would have been destroyed by the wave Aqua had created. The small lake in the area had practically tripled in size after that. The only thing left of Izuku's last attack was the weak currents of electricity traveling in the water. That was the least of his concern as Aqua's glowing body began to change. The light shattered like glass as her new form was unveiled. Hair as blue as the ocean floated in the air as if they were in the water. Her smooth, bright skin shined as if they were glowing. Her dress looked like it was made of water, yet looked as solid as armor. It didn't make sense. Aqua, the ruler of the sea, deity rank, just looking at you is somehow hurting me, Izuku commented. I will take that as a compliment, master. Aqua twirled her golden trident, and pillars of water shot towards Izuku. Gungnir reappeared in Izuku's hands. Then he surged forward, drilling to the pillar of water. Once he reached Aqua, the water around them dispersed, creating a dome that isolated them from the world. Izuku felt his body get heavier, as if he was underwater. An ability that came with my promotion, master. Aqua said as she rushed towards Izuku. Let's test how good it is. Izuku threw Gungnir, but Aqua simply batted away with her trident, causing her to be blown back quite a bit. Excalibur appeared in Izuku's hands and charged Aqua. A diagonal slash was met with an upward swing of her trident, creating a shockwave that sent them a few steps back. Aqua took advantage of her longer range attempt at a stab, but Izuku parried and had the trident pass him. He stepped forward with a slash, aiming for Aqua's shoulder. The ruler of the sea elbowed the rear end of her trident and used her stomach as a fulcrum to slam the end of the trident at Izuku. He couldn't react in time and took a direct hit to his side, sending him crashing on the wall of Aqua's domain. Izuku felt blood running down his side, where the bladed edge of her trident slammed into. I didn't expect such an ungraceful attack from you. Gracefulness would be worthless if I couldn't protect you, master, Aqua replied. That would have been so sweet if I wasn't the one you're fighting. Izuku smirked as he got up, activating Lightning Surge. Izuku attempted to get into Aqua's blind spot, but when he got around her, she twirled her trident downwards and pushed the bottom of her trident when the tip locked onto him. Her movements were so fluid that the simple push shifted into a palm strike stance without disturbing the trajectory of her trident. The trident was launched towards Izuku, the 3 blades piercing his stomach. Ack! He coughed out blood as the force behind the trident even launched him to the wall of the domain. Heroic evolution successful. Task failed. The walls of the domain disappeared, and Izuku fell to his knees as the world around them returned. Aqua approached him and pulled out the trident, getting a pained groan from Izuku before proceeding to heal him. I don't understand. The task failed, but you still evolved, Izuku muttered as he got up. Perhaps the reward would have been another skill master. From what I've heard, you have not gained a skill since obtaining me, Aqua stated. Izuku rubbed his forehead in frustration. I'll think about it another time. I'm sure I'll get another chance in the future. Izuku sighed, then looked around the aftermath of their battle. The whole area was turned into a giant lake. Should I make an aquaponics system? It would need a big investment of resources. But if it succeeds, he'll gain a lot of benefits from it. And who knew what kind of things a system could provide for it? With me here, it will surely succeed, master, Aqua boasted. Izuku trusted Aqua's abilities. But there was a difference between being a goddess that can drown the world and someone taking care of some fishes and plants. I'll think about it. Fuyumi was somewhat concerned at the fact that she was getting used to living in this magical place. As a little green creature handed her some tea, she watched another identical creature make a whole tree grow in seconds. It's like watching a farming game in first person. What's cooking good looking? Fuyumi turned around to see Rumi Usajiyama walking up to her dressed in jeans and a white shirt. I'm just watching the fairies, Rumi supplied. Yes, the fairies, Fuyumi nodded. I just didn't expect to ever see something like this. They look so happy despite working so hard. That's because they're not working. Rumi slumped down on a sofa that sparkled and began to shine as its ability to restore energy kicked in. You know that blue-haired water girl? Ms. Aqua? Yes, her. She explained to us that those fairies love nothing more than planting and harvesting. Rumi explained. She said that in the world they came from, it was hard for these fairies to do what they wanted since there were predators. So being here and doing field work is like heaven for them. Their world? Rumi shrugged. Not sure about that. All I care about is that we have farming simulator pets. Rumi chomped on a golden carrot. Fuyumi just nodded, then remembered something she needed an answer to. Ms. Mirko, can I ask about your relationship with? Emma breed him, she said bluntly. Oh, I see. Well, we haven't fucked yet since Ryuko keeps going on about legal stuff. But that won't last long, 'cause the moment I see that carrot, it is going down. Fuyumi gulped. Oh, okay. It's fine. I'm sure Candlestick wouldn't mind you being the third or fourth wife. Fourth. That water girl is getting a little too handsy. I'm a little lost, my friend. Tashinori scratched the back of his head in confusion as he was in a meeting room with some fellow heroes and Tsukachi. The detective had just finished explaining the recent incidents involving the noble quirk users. These children are killing each other so naturally, Tashinori said in concern. We also can't ignore the power they possess. Endeavor spoke up. I recently had to face this. Endeavor threw 2 cards onto the table. One of the cards had an image of a monster made of water, while the other was made of rocks. I didn't think the number 2 hero was into this stuff. Hawk smirked. Endeavor's eyes twitched. Allow me to explain. Tsukachi picked up the cards. The heroes in the room, All Might, Endeavor, Hawks, and Best Genius gave their full attention. The summons used by people with noble-type quirks take on these kinds of forms when their owner is defeated. The most common forms are either a card, a marble, or a stuffed toy. Tsukachi showed them an image of a stuffed toy in the form of a gorilla in his phone. They really went for the game theme, huh? Hawks commented. That's because the source was a game, Genius pointed out. Now to discuss why all of you were asked to join this meeting. Tsukachi handed all of them folder. A few of them formed an alliance and has been actively attacking other people with noble-type quirks to get stronger. All Might held up a picture of a giant slime. Is this the size of a building? Tashinori asked. Yes. Reports say that the slime monster was 50 meters tall. Terrific, Endeavor groaned. The Kingdom Alliance? These brats are really going for the medieval theme, huh? Mirko commented as they received the briefing for the raid. Are these children really that powerful that we would need all the top 10 heroes? Hawks asked as every member of the top 10 was present for the raid. Based on our intel, there are at least 20 with noble-type quirks in their alliance, Tsukachi answered. The majority of them have been confirmed to have attacked civilians, so they are already labeled as villains. Tsukachi pointed to the list of names on the briefing screen. We provided as much information on their abilities as possible, but as some of you may know, noble quirks have a tendency to bestow random skills to their wielders. Mirko cringed. Tell me about it. The person all of you need to be wary of is the leader of their alliance. An image of a young woman with black hair appeared on the screen. Our intel told us that the theme of her abilities were illusions and seductions. Her summoned creatures are succubus and other demonic creatures. Quite the troublesome abilities, Edshaw commented. Is there a possibility that she used her abilities on the other members of her alliance? We can rule out that these children have simply been put under hypnosis. We thought of that as well, but unfortunately, they are doing this on their own volition. What about the other people working for them? Ryukyu spoke up. We're not certain of that, but her abilities have a time limit, so it's unlikely that they have anyone actually working for them that is hypnotized. Tsukachi answered. Most of the heroes looked down. The thought of dealing with teenagers didn't sit right with them. We'll handle the bitch. Mirko suddenly spoke up. Aren't you eager? Hawks responded. As much as we trust your abilities, this woman is still dangerous, Mirko. Best Genius spoke. And like other noble quirk users we've faced, they have creatures with mystical abilities assisting them. Mirko smirked. I got my own backup right here. Mirko pulled out what looked like a book page. The others looked at her in confusion. Let me explain. Ryukyu stepped up. We have an acquaintance with a noble quirk as well, and his summons take the form of book pages when inactive. Well, that's certainly the first time I've seen a book page used, Tsukachi mentioned. May I ask the rank of the summoned creature? Rank? Crust looked up in confusion. Summoned creatures have ranks to identify how powerful they are. Yoroi Musha told the shield hero. Convenient. See for yourself. Mirko handed Tsukachi the book page, which the detective accepted with a raised eyebrow. He was quite happy when he got that one. This is quite detailed. The owner had quite the talent in analysis, Ryukyu mentioned proudly. Name, Sylph. Race, Forest Dryad. Rank, Hero++. Origin, Fairy Grove. Element, Nature. Offensive, S. Defensive, SS. Production, SS. Compatibility, S. Adaptability, S. Raised from a nature fairy. Sylph has a deep love for every living thing. She protects her allies by using her nature abilities to call upon plants to create walls of durable wood or bind her enemies with vines. With the plants imbued with her magic, they are more durable and stronger than what is commonly seen in the wild. She also grants her allies a passive healing buff when they are close to her. The healing buff is powerful enough to help a person survive a stab to the heart, making by far her biggest asset on the battlefield. The most common use for her abilities outside of combat is to grow produce to an exceptional quality, occasionally even granting the produce with magical abilities like healing. Though Sylph possesses a warm and kind nature, she is extremely protective. Being identified as a threat to her allies immediately subjects you to a curse that weakens your body as you breathe in the pollen she emits. Detective Tsukachi stared at the book page. This seems like it was written from a personal observation, and I can't even put to words how powerful this one is. Tell me about it. Apparently, raising one from scratch puts them on steroids. Mirko shrugged as she grabbed the book page back. With the summon's help, this raid might go a lot smoother. Izuku looked deep in thought as he looked at his quirk's new ability, Worldview. A new ability he awakened after Aqua had been promoted to deity rank. Worldview gave Izuku the ability to look over the world where the summoned creatures originally lived. If he had to describe it, it was like watching the Discovery Channel on the television. The world itself didn't have a name, but the different areas did. One area that Izuku has access to view is Fairy Grove, the place where all his fairy summons originally lived, where Sylph and Terry used to live. The place looked like a giant meadow covered in beautiful flowers and tall trees. But instead of seeing fairies happily go around the area, they were hidden because beasts occasionally passed by. This wasn't what I was expecting. Now you understand why the fairies residing in your territory are so happy, Master. Aqua spoke. Being able to cultivate plants without the fear of being hunted is a dream come true for them. I don't understand. How the hell is this all involved with my quirk? It's hard to believe my quirk connected to a whole different world just to summon you guys. I cannot answer that, Master. Aqua shook her head, as I myself do not recall the beginning of our original world. It's like I kidnapped you guys. I believe it is more like we responded to call to a better place. Now, that sounds like I killed you guys before kidnapping. I had hoped you have already got over your negative thinking, Master. Izuku just sighed. His quirk was a huge blessing for him, but it came with too many mysteries to uncover and wasn't providing answers anytime soon. Every time that it seemed like he was getting used to his abilities, they hit him with another big mystery. It was like a game constantly being updated. I'm gonna go dash. Izuku stopped, froze for a second as he felt something wrong suddenly. Looks like we have some uninvited guests. Making his way to the north side walls, he saw what seemed to be a blimp flying over the walls. 3 people dropped from the blimp. One was a muscular guy with a bald head. The other was a woman wearing a frilly dress. And the last one was tall and skinny guy. I told you there's only one of them here. The skinny one pointed to Izuku. Once we get rid of this guy, all of this would be OU dash. He didn't get to finish his words, as a trident stabbed his chest and stuck him to the wall. You dare mock my master, Aqua growled. Shit! The last 2 intruders separated. The bald one called summoned a big hammer with a steampunk appearance, while the woman summoned a black horse with 2 horns. Shall I dispose of the master? Aqua asked, recalling her trident and watching as a man had impaled perished as their blood gushed. Leave one alive. I have questions, Izuku said before walking away. Izuku glanced at the message he received. Defend. Task, defeat intruders, 1/3. Reward? Bullets made of water rained down from the sky, with each drop having the force of a 50 caliber bullet being shot. Both targets were having the worst time of their life. The giant of man screamed in pain as the bullets destroyed his weapon and pierced through his body, while the woman begged for her life as the bullets shot down her horse and aimed for her next. Mere weaklings dare to challenge my master, and know you beg for your life? Aqua walked toward the woman. She glanced toward the man and saw him slowly dying a few feet away. You're fortunate my master demands answer from one of you, Aqua said before the woman was trapped in a bubble. Now, who the hell are you? Izuku asked. Aqua handed him several items that seemed to be the equipment and summons of the other two. We're scouts from the Alliance. We were told to hunt down other people with noble-type quirks that aren't on our side. Who gave the order? It was a Chu dash before the woman could finish. She began convulsing as pink markings began to appear on her body. Shall I end her master? Aqua asked, raising her trident at the woman. Wait! Izuku watched as the woman began transforming. Her white skin turned dark as horns and wings grew out of her. Oh! The woman moaned in her new form. What is it this time? Well, don't you look delectable, the woman said in her new form. Would you like a taste of this? The woman ripped off the frilly dress, exposing her naked body and revealing a tail. Are you a different person from the woman before? Of course, the woman. Don't I look sexier like this? The woman squeezed her breast. Izuku sighed. Then who are you? You can call me Eliza, cutie. She flew closer, only to be stopped by Aqua raising her trident. Who sent you here? If you want to know, then you'll need to satisfy me first. Elisa raised her legs wide open while in the air. Poke your dash. Eliza never got to continue, as a trident shot through her. Izuku turned to Aqua. I apologize, master. I grew tired of her useless antics.